to order for Monday, March 6, 2017. And I need approval of the agenda. Councillor Rucka, seconder. Councillor Kirby. All in favor? You need adoption of the minutes for February 9th, 2017, a special council meeting. Councillor Casey,
So moved, your worship.
seconder. Kirby, all in favor? And for the minutes of February 15th, 2017, another special council meeting. Councillor Casey,
So
Councillor
moved.
Kirby, all in favor? And for February 20th, 2017, regular council meeting. Councillor Aye. Councillor Scott? All in favor? Any business arising from those minutes? Councillor Scott?
February 20th, 6.2, I voted in the negative on that one. Page 19.
You got that, Mr. Wall?
Thanks.
Anything else? Councillor Hawk?
Page 13, item number 7. It's an application of calcium chloride for dust control on Dump Road. Council approves the cost of repairing the base and installing chip seal for the transfer station from the gate to the transfer station. So that was just for calcium chloride, was it not?
Yeah, I'd have,
Go ahead.
thank you, Michelle. I'll have to take a look at the minutes and see what meeting this is. Either this was defeated or there's a mistake on the moving and seconding, but we'll get it cleared up.
Okay.
Anything else? Seeing nothing. Go to 4.1, the meeting summary sheet, page 24. Anybody got anything on there they'd like to discuss? Mr. Scott?
I think we were going to add criteria for waivers for the Trend Conference Center, and I don't think it's on here.
I think we're bringing that to the PNP. Mr. Wall?
That's correct. You can see TR MHA for use request bring to PPC for discussion
Okay,
on the creation of a policy.
so is that on the next? And then I had, is this where we put the town hall meetings, decide those, or the asset management? I know I had a meeting with your worship and Mr. Wall regarding tentative asset management dates. Should we add those to calendar now or later?
I think that'd be on the calendar.
Okay. So when we get to the calendar at the back,
We'll
okay,
do that later.
perfect, thanks.
Harold, you had something?
Yeah, just back to the Live in TR pamphlet. It says complete and at the printer. Have we sent a digital copy to Canuma Cole at this point?
No, we have not. We sent, they went out to a job fair here the other day and we sent them with a number of printed material.
The Live in TR pamphlet though, like something that we can get people to move here with, or?
No, just our visitor stuff.
Still not done that one? Okay. That's all I got.
Anything else? Okay. Take us to issues and delegations. The first is the public meeting for the intercommunity business license bylaw. Bear with me. We are hereby giving this opportunity for those persons who consider they are affected by the District of Tumbler Ridge Intercommunity Business License Bylaw number 645, 2017. proposed bylaw would permit those who operate businesses in multiple communities to purchase a business license from their home community and an inter-community business license for additional $130 in order to work in any other participating communities. Participating communities are the City of Dawson Creek, the City of Fort St. John, District of Chetwynd, District of Hudson Hope, District of Taylor, District of Tumbler Ridge, and Village of Kuskookee. Anyone who believes they may be affected by the proposed bylaw will be heard at this time. No one will be discouraged or prevented from making his or her views heard. However, it is important that you restrict your remarks to matters contained in the proposed bylaw. When speaking, please commence your remarks by clearly stating your name and address. After this public hearing has conducted, council may, without further notice, give whatever effect council believes proper to the representations made at this hearing. Before closing this hearing, I'm going to call 3 times for any further speakers on any of the matters contained in the proposed bylaw. So is there anybody wants to speak to this bylaw this time? Okay, for the first time, is there anybody who wishes to make any further representations? For the second time, is there anyone who wishes to make any further representations? For the third time, is there anyone who wishes to make any further representations? There being no further speakers, I declare the public hearing closed. Okay, that takes us to 5.2, the TR Day Society Blues Fest 2017.
If I'm gonna excuse myself.
Hello.
Hi,
You're welcome. You have the floor.
Mayor and Council, good evening. I'm Terry Cosgrove. I am Chair of the TR Day Society. And I'm here tonight responding to the letter we received February 15th from Lloyd Clark, Manager of Community Services. Without any warning or expectation, this letter regarding Grizzfest caught the board off guard. We have always believed this event to be a partnership with the district. We were given 13 days' notice that things were going to change. As volunteers, we are unprepared and frustrated by this. If anything, I would have thought we should get more support, not less. The programmer at the community center has always been the leader on this board. Every director has a particular section that they oversee and would be able to tell you how that section is run, but there is so much more that is done by the programmer/coordinator on the district level day to day. We are down to 7 volunteers now. When I started on this board about 7 years ago, we had 13 members, 2 of which were paid staff. The number of members drops every year, mostly because this event takes so much time and planning to put on. Volunteers have been stretched to their breaking point. We have recently lost 2 more directors, sponsorship and front gate. These are 2 big positions to fill, and now with only 5 months until Grizzfest, we are very far behind. Although we appreciate the continued support of the district we respectfully ask council to reconsider the 15% cut in our in-kind budget so as we can hire a coordinator for the rest of this year to train in this transition period and to take on those responsibilities in the coming years so we can take some of the pressure off the volunteers and gain more independence. Our mission was always to have a family-friendly event that both locals and tourists could come and enjoy. I think we do this very well, and I think we are very lucky to have such an amazing event right in our backyard. The volunteers here in this community put in 110% every time and deserve the respect of this council. We promote this event and this town with everything we do. Our motto has always been, come for the music, stay for the adventure. As I said in my letter that I sent in, we are asking for the 15% that was cut so we can hire someone to follow Joy McKay, who is our coordinator, for the rest of this year. We are being thrown into a situation where we have no idea what Joy does on a day-to-day basis. I am the chair of this organization. I also run the beer gardens and VIP. I have pages of responsibilities that I have, and now we are overwhelmed. As I said, we are basically half the board we used to be. So this is not a time to cut services, this is a time to add. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. Does anybody on council have any questions on the request? That's okay.
Asking for the 50% be reinstated. Is there another option of the district hiring a coordinator for this? Does that fill the same need? Yes, maybe through to Jerry.
We would like to hire our own coordinator, someone from our own board that is basically been doing the job. We don't want an outside coordinator that would basically be starting from scratch. We are 5 months away from this year's Grizz Fest with 7 people.
Okay, thanks. Thank you.
Well, I would like to take this to the next PNP because we don't make any decisions in front of the delegation. But we will take it to the next PNP and discuss it and just see where we end up with that. I think the next PNP is 2 weeks, eh?
The 20th.
So we will discuss it then and we'll have an answer. Yes.
So just like, this is the equivalent of $15,000. So does what Joy McKay used to do, or McKay used to do, the equivalent of work that she used to do, did we used to use up $15,000 worth of her time to do this event? In
You
your
know,
opinion?
for years we've been asking for a breakdown of services, what's paid out to district staff, public works. We never get anything. This year we finally got an actual number, but it doesn't give specifics as to, you know, like, how much time does it take to do this? How much time does it take to do that? So going forward, when we're trying to say, okay, well, the stage needs to be put up. Well, how much is that gonna cost? Well, I have no idea, because it was just done and billed out, but we don't know specifically any numbers. So it's hard for us going forward to say, well, yeah, we can do it cheaper, because we have no idea what that number is.
Is that type of a breakdown available from staff?
I think we can check that out at the PNP. I'm sure there must be something.
So you're saying you got a lump sum number, whatever it was, $45,000, that's what the district figures their in-kind donation is, and you don't know if it costs $8,000 to put up a stage, or $1,000 for
Exactly.
sucker trucks, or?
That's right. We've never had a specific number. And there's a lot of things that are done on the district level. There's a lot of things done at the community center. Every poster that's made, every pass that's made, every sheet of paper comes out of the community center. So,
And like, just by what you're saying there, I mean, my thought on it there, I mean, it'd be nice if we could separate that at some point. Maybe, I was hopeful that it was gonna be this year, perhaps it won't be after this PVP, but for that exact same reason, right? Like, we're using resources of the community center, we don't really know how to track it, we can't say what the actual costs are, and we're spending a pile of money, and we don't really know where it's going.
exactly.
And, you know, we're faced with a huge loss in the amount of money that's coming into Tumbling Ridge this year, to the tune of $2 million, and possibly even more, which I don't know how that pans out here in the next little while or whatever, but there's a lot of money that this town is gonna lose, and at some point here, we needed to look somewhere to make some cuts. I threw the idea out to cut 15% to every in-kind service that was out there. Unfortunately, yours was only one of the ones I was able to convince the rest of council that we needed to look at. Through the rest of the budget process, I plan on continuing that look to try to reduce the entire budget by 15% as a total. A lot of it I can't get at because we can't even do, because the grenades are done and finished or whatever, but I've heard some rumors that they figured Grizzfest was unfairly targeted, and by no means was that my intention with Grizzfest. But it's something that we need to look at doing. We need to find places to cut some money out of the budget, so.
And we completely understand that. Here's where I hope that you can understand it. For 7 volunteers who all work full-time jobs and who volunteer hundreds of hours, and not just us, but our families. And the district saying to us, well, we're gonna cut 15% of that, so you're gonna have to work even harder to put on this event. I think there's a point where the volunteers are gonna say, it's your event, take it back.
Councillor Casey, you had something?
No, that's fine. She covered it off, thank you.
Councillor Scott?
I resigned as a Grizzfest director. I was the volunteer director, or a volunteer director, in charge of sponsorship. And when I started on the board, it was due to, there were 2 paid persons in the, at district staff level. And Cheryl Hayden was the planner or whatever, and the programmer was her assistant in the event. So when there was just Joy doing that job, a lot of the volunteers took on things that were paid to do. So I felt at this point, with more stuff being put on the volunteers, to bring this whole event to come about, I wasn't able to commit any more time to it. And the sponsorship too is going to be really interesting when it isn't sanctioned by the district or supported. I think there's going to be a struggle for moving forward, trying to approach some of the local sponsors.
I think we'll have quite a discussion at the PNP event. It'd be nice to have you sitting with us because you have your knowledge of the situation. Okay. Thank you, and like I say, we're bringing it in next PNP, and I don't think we were trying to put some hardships on a bunch of volunteers, but obviously that seemed to have happened, but we'll see what we can do.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Okay, next one is the Geopark update, and the health initiative update and request to use the old visitor information center. Sarah, Charles?
Thanks for taking the time. How's that? Better? I think I'm a loud talker.
I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, so we just, we've got a 3-part presentation, I guess, and I'm going to keep it quick so that we don't go beyond our 15-minute delegation. But I haven't been to present on the Geopark and just what we've been up to for a while, so I'm going to go over that for the first 5 minutes, then I'll hand it over to Charles, who's got a really exciting health initiative that's receiving attention at the world level, and then I will talk to you about my idea for the old visitor center. Nice logo. So the Tumbler Ridge Global Geopark. So this is just a really quick look at the highlights. So basically, in short, we've been busy, and I think at this stage we're really building our program and the awareness in the area. So there's just a list of some of the big things that we've been involved with this year. I've thrown in a few great pictures from the Destination BC Imagery. They spent significant amount of money to create these images, as well as video images. I don't know if anyone has seen, there's one with my husband Craig and one with Hans, the owner of Ridge Roaders. But we also have a series of images that will come out with a whole new campaign. It's the Destination BC Spring and Summer campaign for the world. So we really are being promoted to the world. I was at a Tourism Industry Association of BC conference down in Victoria last week, and images of the Tumbler Ridge area were definitely the feature. I would say the massive screens with Minister Shirley Bond speaking and numerous representatives, and it's a picture of Canuso Falls, and it's a picture of our dinosaur footprints. So really, really great work. And then, as you can see, a number of other kind of awareness initiatives there. So this is the type of thing that we ended up with. This is Simon Ratcliffe's imagery, and the district contributed funding as well as in-kind time with the accommodations to help, so we could do more with the budget that we had. We also really focused on bringing the idea of motorized recreation, getting high quality images, showing that we have snowmobiling and ATVing in the area. And of course, focusing on our paleontological resources, which is one of our key features in the geopark. This is kind of one of my favorite pictures of my job, but it just shows you the type of images that they took, and these are the sorts of things that are being featured through Destination BC. This is the Monkman Tarns. In terms of our actual program, that's what most of the time I'm not actually walking around in the Tarns with the phone. Most of the time I'm sitting at my desk. And, these are just a couple of the highlights. One big piece is that the Canadian Commission of UNESCO, or CC UNESCO, have formally adopted the Canadian Geopark Program as one of their key programs. And so with that comes funding to send us to their AGM in Ottawa. And that also comes the awareness of what we're working on and the ability to lobby people at the federal level. One of the other big things is School District 59 is really excited about the Geopark, and they're looking at creating a full year curriculum 4-credit class for grade 12 students with dual credit at the Northern Lights College level. Experiential learning, so working with the Mountains 101 program from the University of Alberta, getting kids working on these things so that it's an idea of something that you can do as a group developing what we have here in the Geopark. And then of course there are a number of local events that we've been working on. We've had a couple of one-day type events, the Heli Snowshoe, a geological ski tour of Flatleg Creek, snowshoeing through the Shipyard Titanic area. The Peace Cycle Tour is a 3-day tour through the Peace region covering 300 kilometers for those of us who like that kind of thing. And it's been a way to really engage the whole region in the Geopark. So we spend a day in Dawson, a day in Chetwynd, and a day in Tumbler. So we do the whole loop there. And it's kind of a way to build partnerships with Dawson Creek and Chetwynd, who, if you look at it from a visitation strategy, they are the gatekeepers of the highways that come directly to us. So if their visitor centers know what we have, and that we are promoting them as well, they're going to send people our way. Then the other thing is, of course, we did spend quite a bit of time supporting the Quality Lake ATV trail application, which was basically my expertise as an archaeologist going in and also working as the WNMS past president with the recreation officer and helping that move along. So one of the requirements of a geopark is to be involved in the global network. And here are a couple of the things that we've done. So we had a delegation go to the Global Geopark Network conference in Torquay in the UK, and that was funded through the PRRD funding that we request. And it's very difficult to get funding for conferences, and it sounds like you're going to have a fun party, but you guys who have gone to conferences, yeah, I'm sure there's a little bit of downtime, but it's really important strategic networking, but it's also a requirement to attend these. Dr. Helm presented 2 presentations while we were there. And I've also, because we're the second global geopark in North America, with that comes a lot of opportunities. So when they're looking for global representation on things, if you are looking for a representative from Asia to sit on that committee, there are over 70 geoparks. So you have the staff at these established 70 geoparks and picking one person out there. Here, I am the option because Gail Bremner is the other option at Stonehammer in New Brunswick to be the representative on that geopark executive. So, I mean, you could say that they had no other choice. So I like to think that it's a good opportunity, and so that people know where the Tumbler Ridge Global Geopark is, whereas it's more difficult to get that kind of awareness, say, in Asia or Europe, where it's much more established. And we're working with other geoparks worldwide. I'm sorry, my image there is kind of tough. I'll just tell you what it says anyway. So we're working with Gaia Norvegica, which is a global geopark in Norway that I just visited of my own Coalition, and come see my Itchy Feet presentation on Thursday. But so they've, just speaking with them about what kind of winters we have here, the kind of activities we do. The Gaia Norvegica director, who's the treasurer for the Global Geopark executive for the whole world, she took the Canadian geoparks to the Nordic network, which is Finland, Sweden, Norway, Denmark, to suggest that Canada be considered in the Nordic network so that they could promote what we're doing and try and encourage visitation and that kind of thing. So these are great initiatives. And then we also have been working with geoparks in the UK, Spain, and Greece. I've been working with them directly on what we have as a program, where we can learn from these people who've had this for 15 years, been through numerous validations. And then we've had a number of our board members go to other geoparks to try and learn what they're doing on the ground. Those visits are of their own volition with their own time and money. The other thing, this symbol that you see up there, it's kind of hard to read and it's a bit cumbersome. The 2017 International Year of Sustainable Tourism Development, I think. It's really long, but what it means is UNESCO has titled 2017 to be that, and the Global Geoparks Network have jumped on board. They asked about 3 hours before I left for Christmas vacation if all geoparks could submit video that had no text and no music and no this and no that from our geopark to put in a video, and I was able to get some great footage from Brandon Brom to put in there. And so we have a clip of our snowshoers, the only winter scene in the whole video, in this international video that's going out, kind of all these conferences promoting sustainable tourism. And then, of course, part of the global scene, Dr. Helm, you'll hear about his initiatives shortly. And then the other opportunity that has come up, again, through that small network in the Americas, but also through becoming known at the conference in Torquay, is I'm now on the communications committee for the Global Geopark Network. So there are 12 of us from around the world who meet about how to get the message about geoparks out better to the geoparks and the world. As well, I am now the working group lead for all of the Americas, North, Central, and South. These things happen for geohazard risk reduction. I don't think that comes with a free trip to Patagonia, but one of those things that if you're asked to do, you do it. But hopefully it will bring great awareness to Tumbler Ridge. Just a couple highlights on funding. So you've probably heard that we were just awarded the BC Rural Dividend Fund. We applied for $110,000 and received all of it. So we're very excited about that. That will allow us to develop educational material that will be able to be delivered basically from early childhood to adult education, key lesson plans that can be downloaded off our website. We will be doing outreach in all of the school district 59 and 60 classrooms so that people know what we're doing, and it will be, trackable through our website so we know how many people are accessing that material as well. Then there's also, that's about 7% of it, as well as funds for marketing to promote the community in general, as well as public displays about the geopark and that kind of thing. I've also put in for $100,000 from the BC Canada 150 Heritage Grant for the Geopark Stories project. And I've just got 2 points there. I have a 5-page executive summary if anyone would like to ask. It's one of those things I'm passionate about because it means I get to do archaeology again. But I'm taking out an archaeological research permit for the entire geopark, and there are huge map sheets that have never had any archaeology done on them. And we're in an area between really old sites in the Canadian national parks of the Rockies, and then the Charlie Lake Cave site in Fort St. John is the oldest known site in British Columbia at 10,400. So I think we're in that ice-free corridor, and we'll find really interesting things. But we're combining that with a cultural camp that we're inviting citizens of Tumbler Ridge and the local First Nations communities to come and learn about the different First Nations cultures. Go out, do some archaeology with professional archaeologists during the day. I've heard from 7 different firms of archaeologists who are sending trucks and crews to come take part, so they're excited about it. And then we all go and sit around the campfire and share the artifacts that we found that day and the stories about the landscape that came up. And that could be anything from the stories of, my great-great-grandfather used to say this, from I remember the year that the town was cut and we used to have the Royal of Ankon and Atco trailer. It's about bringing communities together so that we're not viewing us as this island of Tumbler Ridge with the community here and here, but just talking about the wealth of what we have. So I hope to hear on that this month. We couldn't have done it without the District of Tumbler Ridge. Here's an image that was from that Simon Ratcliffe imagery that you supported. So the joint branding exercise, that logo that's so good looking, big benefits to both of us really for that concerted marketing effort. I'm hearing a lot of feedback from the other geoparks. They're jealous of the type of support we're getting and the sort of awareness this will bring to people coming to our community. Again, partnering up on trade show attendance, the district paying for those kinds of the fees associated and us putting the time out there and the materials. And then the mutual support, so working on that marketing to apply for funds through the Northern Development Initiative Trust and then the BC Rural Dividend Project. John Powell and I worked closely together to support one another's application to show that we weren't working apart. We both think these are important projects and we ended up both being successful. And then of course the initiative by Councillor Kirby, I don't know if she's brought it to you, that to bring geoparks to the Federation of Canadian Municipalities in Ottawa. So she's asked me for contacts in the established geoparks and aspiring geoparks to bring that forward as something that people should really be talking about at the federal level. So here's two pictures of kids because they are the future. The one at the top is kids working on the past, fossils at the Dinosaur Discovery Gallery, and then the other one is my son with his dinosaur footprint snowshoes. So further funding, we're going to be applying for further funding from the PRD. That's our base operational funding that basically pays my salary, it pays for the trips that we can't get other funding for, and it also pays for our reevaluation, which happens in 2018. We'll be putting in a BC gaming grant application, and we're hoping that that will offset quite a bit of my salary costs and those kinds of basic operational skills. We'll see how that goes. Lakeview Credit Union has a small grant that we're applying for, as well as the Geosciences Education Program grant. And both of those will allow us to build material to get that out to the community. And then CC UNESCO, again, lobbying opportunities for federal support. Then just upcoming opportunities. So there's going to Ottawa to really meet with the people who make big decisions. There's a 1-week course on how to do a geopark in Lesbos, Greece. Right now, I'm not sure we have enough money to send me, but I'd love to go. That's in June. And then in September, there is the annual European Geopark Network meeting in the Azores. So these are those type of international meetings that it's mandatory to attend these types of things to be part of the global network. And that's a really fast update. And over to you, Charles. Yeah.
Thank you for this opportunity just to give you a very brief summary on this initiative. So Sarah mentioned that we had a delegation to Torquay in September of 2016 to this international conference. And the theme that the GGN chose as their main conference theme was health and well-being in global geoparks. And there were 6 themes, and everyone was asked to submit their proposals for their presentation. So there were a total of 250 presentations, 250 submissions. And obviously the GGN was expecting lots in the health and well-being category because that was their main theme. Well, there were 6 in the health and well-being category, one of which was mine. So I think the Global Geoparks Network was somewhat upset that there wasn't this buy-in from geoparks. Everyone wanted to show these lovely pictures of what they're doing in their geoparks, but they didn't really get into this idea of how can geoparks promote health and well-being. And I then realized I'm probably the only family physician or the only qualified medical doctor in the whole Global Geoparks Network movement. And I saw an opportunity there, so I discussed it with them at the time. When I got back to Canada, I discussed it with the Canadian National Committee and then came back to our local board of directors, all of whom approved me going ahead and trying to work on this. And the result is that we now have 4 modules, and you can see the topics there. The first one is moving well, second one is connecting well, the third one is eating well, and the fourth one is bringing it all together just for a live well thing. And this all relates back to how the geopark and how we think in geoparks and how visitors coming here can enjoy it, can learn to be healthy here and to develop their well-being and sense of place and everything here. And then when they leave, they take that somewhere else with them. So it's the opportunity to really change people's lives for the better. So in drawing up these modules, I've had outstanding support, firstly from this gentleman, Matthew, who's a professor in Exeter in the UK, and he was the keynote speaker at the main event on health and well-being in geoparks in Torquay. So I've worked very closely with Matthew. I've had experts in Australia. I've had Godfrey Nolan, who's the chair of the National Committee. I've been working closely with Northern Health as well, and their medical officer of health. Sarah provided good information on First Nations. And then I've developed a team as well of allied health professionals. Well, first I should mention athletes like Chris Swanson for their expertise. But then I've got the regional physiotherapist, dietitian, respiratory therapist, pharmacist, and our nurses. So we've got a whole team of allied health professionals who are all very much into this. And the next step, I think, is to develop a partnership with our First Nations as well. So the support from the Global Geoparks Network has really been heartwarming. And this is Patrick McKeever, who's kind of the CEO, the head of Global Geoparks Network, and you can just see his comments there saying, we have to share this with the rest of our global geoparks, and he thinks it's a great follow-up to the discussions in Torquay. So that's from Patrick. And then the next one is from Margaret, who's the Deputy Secretary for the GGN. And she's likewise, great interest, inspired, broad outreach, really good, and we need to think how this can best profit the other geoparks. It's a great tourist concept, and then, music to our ears, a great idea born in a great UNESCO Global Geopark. So just been really nice to get those kinds of comments, and in a week or two's time, we're taking this back to the Canadian National Committee for their input and their approval as well. So the plan is now to apply, because as we know, funds are tight, not to try and use existing funds within our bank accounts, but to apply for an Imagine grant through Northern Health, which is $5,000, and with that we would plan to develop brochures, a website, some more complex, some simpler text, etc. But essentially have something that everybody could come here and have access to, and then to export these ideas to the other global geoparks. Was only one, which is Stonehammer, but there are also about another 10 or 11 aspiring geoparks in Canada. So we give this to them, and they would take from these modules the general principles, which applies to everybody. Then there's some stuff here which applies specifically to Tumbler Ridge, but they would insert their stuff there. So what we are creating here could be exported to all these other geoparks in Canada. And then, as you can see from Patrick and Margaret's comments, this is now exportable to any of the 120 geoparks in the entire world. And I am a passionate believer in geoparks, not just for what they do for Tumbler Ridge, but the power to change people's minds and how they see the planet and how they live their lives, to change things for the better. I'm a passionate believer in this. So we actually have an opportunity now, through what we've done here, to influence the entire planet with regard to health and well-being. So it's an enormous opportunity, and what makes me especially proud is that the things I've been able to put into these modules have been created by the volunteers of Tumbler Ridge, and who are the backbone of our community. We've got very good in the gallery tonight, but there are so many dozens and dozens of volunteers just like Very Good who've essentially given us the opportunity to now take this to the international level. And as you can probably sense, I'm passionate about this health and well-being thing, but it's just, who would think that a community of 3,000 people can have an influence on the entire world, like we hope this will happen. And just incidentally, revalidation is 2018, we know that. Just maybe this, even if we don't get all of our other 14 points which they want us to work on, even if we kind of so-so on some of them, maybe something like this will help us, to say, sure, you've done a good job in other ways which we weren't expecting, so we'll kind of allow you to be revalidated, because we all know how much time and effort and funding you have put into this, and the whole branding, etc., how important it is that we don't lose that. It would be a disaster for us to lose that. So I think something like this helps us, and I didn't want to give you loads and loads of reading material, but if there's any desire to actually read these modules and see the kind of things we're encouraging people to do here, I'd be very happy to share that with you. Thank you.
And just so you know, I'm an all or nothing person, and we're gonna get all 14 and the health and wellness initiative, so enough of that. Okay, all right, so a new space in the Old Vic. So I I'll just go through it. How the text is really small on these screens, but you don't have to read it all. This is our 14 points that we keep talking about. From that evaluation letter, I've listed 5 there that talk about, besides the display of paleontological content, more content on the basic knowledge of geology, biodiversity, cultural relics, improve the current infrastructure and service facilities. Emphasis should be given on an outdoor interpretation system, including basic introductory boards in the urban town site of Tumbler Ridge. They called us urban, you should be excited about that. The involvement of the local communities in the geopark should be further promoted. And then after the formal integration of the geopark in the GGN, which we now have, it should be clearly noted to visitors everywhere they go that they're visiting a territory of excellence in the geopark. So I look at these 14 points a lot. This is my kind of my strategic plan that I'm working towards. We want to work beyond that as well, of course, because after the evaluation comes, we don't want them to say you really dropped the ball on those other 3 things, you're doing well. But this is something that we need to know we've addressed. So these are the things that I think about. That's the background that I'm thinking about. And so the other thing that comes up is, what are we doing for Tumbler Ridge? And you know, Charles just had a quote there from Patrick McKeever and one from Margaret Patzak, and these are the people in the geopark world. And so this is a quote from an article that they read with the GGN president, Nicholas Zeros. And the ultimate aim of a global geopark is to bring enhanced employment opportunities for the people who live there. So thinking about all of these things and what we can do and how we can improve it, I'm in the new visitor center, as you know, so of course I look out the window and I see the old visitor center. And I found out, I was kind of thinking about, you know, it's such a nice building and or an area, the location is prime, what we could do. And it came to me that it came up in a previous council meeting, and that there was a report requested from staff that to look at dismantling it, which meant time was of the essence to come and talk to you. So I wasn't planning to time this with the same report from staff, but that's how these things often go, and I guess that's how things get brought to a head. The successful application for the BC Rural Dividend Fund, so there's funding in there for staff time, not mine, to create, there's a bit of my time, but to create educational materials, as well as actual money to create interpretation boards and things like that in the community, as well as we've got our application into the BC Canada 150 grant, which is my Geopark Stories project. With that, the stream I applied through, you work directly with the Royal BC Museum, and so working on their suggestion, we would create 10 mini mobile geopark museum displays based on a number of the topics we have to address, such as geological history, biodiversity. And what does that mean? Really, it could be a display on butterflies, alpine plants, it could be on the different types of rocks. These are, you know, those are big words, but we really need to be able to talk to the regular citizens and visitors about what those things are. So that's potentially something that we're going to have that we could share in classrooms and around the region at places, you know, let's support our local museums, Hudson's Hope, Who's Scooby. These are small community-run museums who don't have a budget really to increase displays, as well as our own museum. So these could be on display there, that kind of thing. But they could also be on display at a permanent location, such as the Old Visitor Center. And then, of course, I've received your support for hiring a program coordinator so I can make all of these day-to-day things happen. And the question which I put in the letter is looking at where we can put that person. And so when I look out the window, I took this picture this morning. This is what I see. And thinking about the visitor center, it's not just the visitor center, it's the location. And when I picture the visitor center, what I would like to do is put some staff there, but I would also like to look at the whole area, so the visitor center, the caboose, and the gardens behind it. And I don't want to duplicate what the visitor center is doing. They have information on all of the walking trails and the motorized recreation, so that's not what I want to hold. I don't want to duplicate the museum. That's one of the reasons I'm looking for alternate places to have information on biodiversity and geological history and cultural history, because that's a paleontological logical place, and they, you know, they do what they do. I don't need to go there. So how do we tell the rest of the story? So if we have maybe 1 or 2 staff in that building, plus interpretive panels and displays, it can be viewed year round. But let's use the whole area. Let's slowly turn the garden beds into an example of the biodiversity. So we could have one that's an alpine garden bed that you see rock plants that you might find in the alpine, or plant some of the native species, you know, boreal, black and white spruce, those kinds of things, so that the people who can't get out into the backcountry can learn about that. And then I would propose going to the community garden with that, and also to the Museum Foundation to work at getting funds to upgrade the caboose display. Just let's keep things current and interactive and accessible. When I started thinking about it, it's pretty easy to send someone across the street from the new visitor center to the old visitor center. A lot of times people drive in, they get into their information, and then they drive out. This way we get them to walk there. And one of the places that I think is really underutilized in our community is the space between the liquor store and I call it the old Vinnie's place. I don't know if you guys, so if you look, it's this place here. So this walkway, you know, I was talking to Doug Beal this weekend, and he said that the district has done some improvements, and they certainly, you guys have cleaned it up, but it's, you know, it's a nice wide space with trees planted that is, to me, crying for something else. So this is when I think of public urban locations. This is somewhere you could maybe put interpretive displays or art, sculptural art that actually shows the geopark. Make it a place that people want to sit, you know, either for a smoke break or lunch or whatever. But once you have people at the old visitor center, which would be the new geopark center, you send them to look at the display there, and then they're downtown. So then they're right there where they can walk over to the pharmacy to get bug spray. They can get a 6-pack of beer for their camping trip, maybe not a 6-pack. They can go to the grocery store, because we've led them from point to point into the middle of the community, which is one of the things that John always brings up. Sarah, I don't know if I want to give you that space, or I don't know if we should do this. I want people to walk through downtown. So that's where I started thinking about trying to link it together. So when they're if they get to that place first, you know, we send them to the visitor center to learn about those resources. We send them up to the museum to learn about paleontology. So here's a few more. This was earlier in the year when it was much more summery. But so there's lots of room to, you know, like again, maybe an alpine garden bed here, one here. This is an overall view of the space. So you can see that you could create places for sitting and places for interpretation. I'm not proposing plastering the area with signs. These would be kind of low-mounted, on-brand signs that would, you know, they would take up some of this outside building space, so that, you know, you're learning about as you go. As you walk around the garden bed, you learn about the plants and the butterflies we're encouraging, that kind of thing. So I read the report while I was waiting for council meeting to start tonight, and I was distressed to see Boyd's recommendation that the renovations are extensive. So I don't know what those costs would be, but in speaking with Councillor Kirby, she suggested that we could look to NVIT for cultural stasis funding. So I don't know what that covers versus what the actual building requirements are. So that is something that I definitely can't answer, but in general, I think that we have a good proposal to kind of promote that economic diversification and also fit my mandate for the 2018 year revalidation. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. We'll see you. Any questions from council? Council Page?
Thank you, Your Worship, and just, sir, I want to thank you publicly, and also Roxanne has had the opportunity, council, of spending some time with both Sarah and Roxanne. They gave me an in-depth look in terms of their operations, and taught me a heck of a lot more than what I had known about the whole operation. I am really, really impressed with the board and the members that are involved, many of which we've worked with previously and that are known to all of us here in Tumble Ridge. Some real first-class quality people. There's no doubt about that, and I can get very, very excited about it when you listen to the fact of what their plans are, how well they are researched and supported, and it's one of the groups that, if we are really with it, not only provide the support, but get out of the way so that they can carry on and do exactly what it is they've got outlined. So I thank you very, very much for that, and also for the lessons in terms of the information you provided when I had the opportunity of sitting down. I wish you very, very good luck. You certainly got my support.
Yes. Well, I was impressed listening to you guys, and you know, and you're right. You go to any one of these tours and things anywhere in the province, and that's all they talk about is Tumble Ridge and what we got going on up here, and it's kind of exciting to hear that. And we talk about the health side of it. I remember a few years ago, over in Nordic Society, getting a lot of credit at a Northern Health meeting because they get people hiking and stuff like that. And this is all falls into the same thing that you're talking about there, Charles. And it's great to see that health be matched up with the geopark and that. So it's good.
Yeah, I can just, if you don't mind, I can just add, one of the things that we came out from Torquay with was a tool from the World Health Organization to try and assess the the health benefits of building these trails. And it's a bit difficult for us to make the calculation. We've tried and got the best numbers, so we don't go and post about them everywhere because we're not quite sure how accurate our numbers are. But it's the benefit in health to people using the trails is, in other words, this cost savings to the healthcare system is well over $1 million a year. That's a conservative estimate. So we're getting to the point where we can begin to make those economic arguments as well.
Thank you, and thank you for the presentation. And in our further discussions, I'm sure they'll weigh heavily.
Great, thank you very much. Mr. Faust.
Yeah, this is the correspondence, 6.1, UBCM 2016 Asset Management Planning. For information or discussion. That's all.
Move for information.
Secretary for that? Scott, all in favor? Okay, 6.2, the Chittenden Forest Industries. Councilor Hopper.
For discussion?
Okay. Secretary?
Just wondered if there were any maps that they sent along would be attached, so we have an idea. We're talking about in the Wolverine and the Sekunka. They don't give us any actual idea of the maps are. Did they send any maps with us?
I don't know, there's a roll of maps in my office there. Is that to do with this, Jordan? Okay, yeah, I guess we do have them.
Yeah, they're the big ones. If anybody wants to come in and see them, you're more than welcome.
And did staff review those maps at all? Like, is there any areas of concern that we should know about?
I'm not sure. I opened them up and I couldn't understand it, so I rolled them back up again. But did staff have a look at them?
No, we haven't reviewed them. If we were to review these, we'd need to maybe look at the community forest to have a look at them.
Sometime when Duncan's in town, it might be an idea to sit down with him and go through them. Councilor Casey?
Thank you, Worship. Just a couple of points. Which Councillor Howe has mentioned. A couple of things that come to my mind. Always concerned about the visibility from Tumble Ridge in terms of where these cut blocks are. Whether or not we're going to be looking at clear cuts completely surrounding the town. And for anybody that's been here for longer than minutes can recognize the fact that there are blank spaces and areas that it's happening all the time. And I'm just wondering whether or not it would be possible to invite maybe a representative from Chetwynd Forest Industry, because they are the individuals at the moment that we're dealing with here, and to go over where is the site located relative to Tumble Ridge, is it visible from the town site, what we can do, what can we do, if anything, in terms of saying, no, we're not interested in that. We do have some input, some leverage, and I don't know that we do have. And how are the cut blocks decided upon, the effect in Tumble Ridge? So I think there's a number of questions that we could ask of their representatives. And I think it would be worthwhile having those discussions as well. And the other subject relative to the maps, I'm not an expert at dealing with the maps at all, but and we've talked about this, council, previously. It would be wonderful to be able to have a map, large, huge, whatever it happened to be, the Tumbler Ridge here, and the cut blocks, identified colors, whatever, to see just exactly from an overall expanse view of what is happening now where it stands and what is yet to come that's already been committed to. And make it large, make it visible, not a whole bunch of detail, so that when we can look at that, it will give us a real good fix in terms of that, yes, we're satisfied with it all, or if we're not, then zone in on these certain areas. So I certainly would recommend that if possible to get Chetwynd Forest Industries and representatives to come in and have a presentation for us, so that we have an opportunity to deal with them directly.
I think, did we not give that kind of direction at the rec center that night we were talking? To have Canfor and see if I had to come and talk to us about, their plans, and if they could come and talk to us about buffer zones and stuff like that.
I believe it was Dick, if I remember correctly, the direction was for us to send out letters to those major forestry players to inform them that we'd be looking to set up a sawmill in Tumbler Ridge. I don't recall.
I remember that too, but I thought there was, but I think this does carry some weight. But the thing that I was thinking is that if we could talk to BC Forestry beforehand, is just see what kind of strengths we have when we're talking to the forest companies, that if we do have any. Do you not agree with that, Councillor Casey?
Yes, I do, but whatever, it would be nice to know if we don't have any leverage, then what are we worrying about it?
Yeah.
And if we do have it, it would be nice to know that, and we can maybe figure out some strategies on that basis.
Especially when we're dealing with the geopark and
Absolutely.
it's our pristine nature here is important. Councillor Strack.
It's just, reading the letter, it indicates that a lot of the blocks are damaged pine beetle blocks and the spruce beetle that's coming in. So a lot of these areas are already at risk of being potential fire hazards as well. I would be interested though for that buffer or reforestation close to the road, so the visibility, is improved with the geopark, but a lot of the forest is damaged.
And that's partially what I was gonna say, but also that, these companies, they have tenure on this. It's already theirs, they're gonna cut it, and regardless of what we say. But this is them doing their due diligence, that if we have any questions, that we have the authority to bring them in and say exactly what Councillor Casely, what his concerns were. That, okay, we do wanna see maybe a little bit of a buffer, not that they're bound to do that, but I think we can make a good argument due to things like the geopark, due to things like, we within the community forest, we've tried ourselves to do that, and want to kind of follow the same model. That's our opportunity to give them any of our concerns.
In the past, they used to do that by themselves, they used to come in and talk to us.
Yeah.
Can you get any direction from that, Mr. Wall? Set up some meetings?
Council can pass a motion to set up the meetings, or mayor of the authority, I can just do that as well.
Probably want to pass a motion, somebody want to make a motion to send letters to Councilor McCann? Seconder, Councilor Casey, in favor? And I think that's to both forestry companies, well, I think there's two of them, and to BC Forestry. Councilor Locke?
And with the emphasis on creating some type of a map, right, that all the forest companies together, including our community forests, can then plot on, like Councillor Casely said, these are all the areas in purple that have already been logged, these are the ones in yellow that to be logged, and onward and upward. Particular concern is the area southwest of Tumbler Ridge, that you can look over the mountains here now and you can see a brand new clear cut and equipment working there at night. How much further does that one continue to go from that type of stuff? So we're behind the 8 ball on, no doubt about it, but we need some type of a map to at least do our due diligence to make sure we're representing the interests of our communities.
Okay. that covered. Go on to 6.3, Peace River Local Government Association meeting, info or discussion? Councilor Hall?
For information.
Okay, seconder? Kaka? All in favor? 6.4, Enbridge Community Forest, information and discussion. Discussion, seconder? Okay.
I'd like to excuse myself on this conversation.
This council Strauss seconded that, right?
Yeah.
Carol,
Yeah, I just see that they have a want in their letter that they're looking at using one of our uses over at the Trend Mountain Hotel for either June 15th or one of those days, June 16th or 17th. Trend, are we waiting for this thing to go through, like in regards to at the PBC in regards to discussion first?
I think we are, and then we're gonna create a policy for it, and then, yeah. I think that's, fine, Mr. Wall,
That's council's direction.
are you okay with that?
Yeah, and just to follow that up, I mean, my thought on this is exactly like, you know, if this delegation is bringing in 100 people, they gotta stay in 100 hotel rooms. Go to the hotel and ask them for the conference room. That's the whole point of having a conference room in a hotel, so they can sell more rooms, right? Don't come to us looking for free rooms.
Okay, and it's gonna come to P&P, so
Yeah.
we'll have her say, okay? Anybody else, got anything to say about it? No? Okay, 6.5. That's true, I'll be covered already in the delegation, I think, so information discussion. We are bringing it to a PMP, so there will be discussion. Councilor Casey?
Thank you, Worship. Did I understand you correctly that this particular subject will be coming to a P&P?
Yeah.
Thank you.
And it is on the March 20th, is that correct?
Yeah, I think so, Mr. Wong. So, for information? Carol? All in favor? Okay, under Geopark, old information set. This is also in that same category, we've already discussed it. Unless you got some more to talk about. Councilor McKay?
Was there an opportunity to maybe discuss this a little more formally than just the presentation in the upcoming meetings?
Yeah, I think it comes back again later on in another report. Maybe we can wait till that and then we can decide what we want to do with it, if we want to bring it back to P&P. Yeah, it's 8.3.
Right on.
Geopark?
So we'll just do this for information.
Move for information.
Okay, thank you, Darrell. All in favor? Okay, the Sunbridge Museum Foundation. Information or discussion. I'm moving it for discussion. Can I get a second of that? Okay. I would like to ask staff to bring us a report back on where we stand with this. Just so that we know what of our asks have been done and what haven't. And we can sit down at a P&P and discuss it. Is that okay with council? Okay, do we need a motion for that? Okay, I'll make that motion, a second. Darrell? All in favor? Councilor Hall?
So, with their letter, I mean, the logic makes sense that, they had the $200,000 to start the renovations on their project. But that's not really what the $200,000 we were supposed to be giving was for. I understand they're just using one to pay off another, and it's got some sense there, but and I haven't had a chance to talk to Mr. Wall about this. I didn't come in and see him. I had called him earlier today and I forgot what I was gonna ask him about, and this was the one. And, so my concern comes around the improvements to the building, and who ensures that the improvements to that building are in the best interest of the town and that they're being performed to local building code? We no longer have a local building inspector. I understand we put funding forward so that we could have a building inspector come to the town. So are we utilizing that person at this point to, like, I know they're doing stuff up there right now, they're doing some renovations. But for that renovation and the stuff going forward, are we gonna have a building inspector looking at that on the level of building repairs? But previously, our building inspector was able to look at it on a district level as well, not just, yes, you're meeting the code, but also to say, geez, they're doing this to the building, that may not be in the best interest of the town. We don't have that liaison anymore. Is anybody in the town doing that?
Mr. Wall?
So the museum, excuse me, the museum should and needs to be submitting plans to the district for any alterations to our building. It is our building. That has not always happened in the past. You're correct. In the past, we had a building inspector as well and senior manager, so that was able to be taken a look at. It's something that we're going to have to be careful of in the future. When these plans come into us, we're likely going to be relying on engineers. I can say on the regional building inspector, it's been held up much longer than it should have, much longer than it had been expected to. On the first introduction into the Peace River Regional District, it was defeated. It was then brought back and passed. On the first introduction into Dawson Creek Council, it was defeated. It is being brought back, and from my understanding, expects to be passed at that point, so it's taken much longer. We've actually reached out to Mr. Clickash and hired him on a contract basis, so we have building inspection in town. The permit requirements were started, or permit applications were starting to pile up, so it's something that we needed to take care of.
Okay. Anything else? Councilor Jason?
So thank you, Worship. I'm just wondering whether or not there was an email message that we had got from our CAO, as I recall, on Friday dated March the 3rd, of where he had indicated here the council has the following options in your meeting on Monday. One is to approve the 200,000 lump sum. Second was request a museum submit a report to council detailing the progress on their deliverables. And the third one, and the one that was recommended, is to request a museum submit information to administration on the progress of their deliverables, which will be vetted in a report to council. If council decides to seek information on deliverables, I would recommend this particular step. And that being the case, I guess the question comes up, and I'd like to put a motion on the floor, if I could, that we request a museum to submit information to administration on the progress of their deliverables, which will be vetted in a report to council.
That's kind of what was in the motion that I made.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, all right, fair enough.
So I think that's pretty well the drift that we've got, Mr. Wall.
That's correct.
Okay, I'm sorry, I misunderstood. Fair enough.
That's all you got.
They put a deadline in here of March 31st, 2017. Is that a doable timeline for staff? I know staff is always has a lot of stuff on their plate. Are we giving priority to this at this point for staff time to help them out on this? Is that what we're doing? That not the case?
Mr. Wall?
I believe that was a question to council on your prioritization.
Yep.
Oh, okay, I think staff should do this as they can get it done. I don't think this is all of a sudden a surprise. Councilor Kirby, you had
Thank you,
something?
Your Worship. I think in the past, I think the museum has been told before to, in their budgeting, to have money set aside to get them through to the end of March, or maybe even early into February, because of the way the fee-for-service runs. And they've known about that. So, I mean, the fact that they don't have funding to carry them through is a little bit, it's kind of discouraging to me.
I think this is a little different than their funding though, correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm reading this differently, they're looking for the $200,000 so they can they can use that money to leverage another $500,000 to do the repairs, but the cultural spaces deadline is March 31st, so the way I understand it, if they don't have the 200,000 by March 31st, they won't be able to leverage the $500,000, is that not the way you guys read this? And if that's the case, are we gonna direct staff's time from this point forward till then to focus on this? For instance, we're asking for a pamphlet to be made up that came from the Fort McMurray forest fire to be given to Canuma. We're 3 months now and don't have that pamphlet yet. So I'm not convinced that we're gonna be able to take all of staff's time to put it this and have it done by March 31st. I don't feel confident that that can happen. And are we missing out on $500,000 for the museum by not doing this?
Scott,
They also have the option of seeking funds elsewhere with that possibility of obtaining the 500,000. So they're asking just to say, interest and that time. So they do have other options, which, do we, take this on, like you were indicating?
Councilman Chai, you had something?
Yeah, I just want to maybe talk a little more about what Councillor Kirby had brought up there. Is that this is far from the first time that this request been made, and our answer has been. I mean, sometimes we've kind of caved and done it, but our answer has always been that you should be following the exact same rules as every other society or whatever that's in the same situation that has a grant that comes quarterly, and I mean, I think there's even communication that had to go to remind them of that. So this is just, I don't know how many times now, is this half a dozen times? We've received this same letter? And the grant, I don't know what kind of funds they were bringing in now, but I mean, that was before the Peace River were even really involved as heavily as they are. So this is just something that comes up every year, every other year at this time, and has been addressed in a uniform manner at each of those times.
Council Howell brings up a good point though, that if it's $500,000, there's $500,000 sitting on the table because of this, it's something that should be nice for staff to look into and just, please. Mr. Wall.
I requested a meeting with the Tonbridge Museum Foundation president last Friday. He did not grant it to me, said he didn't have time and that he's going to be out of town until Wednesday. Tried to look into these issues because I anticipated these questions coming from council, was not able to get answers. Ms. Torval has a great saying. What is it? Thank you. Poor planning on your part does not constitute an emergency on my part.
You write that down, so
That's true.
that's good.
True, well done.
Does she say that directly to you, Jordan, or?
I got painted on the wall.
So, we've done, in anticipation, I have reached out to the Tonbridge Museum Foundation. Depending on the answers that come back, this might be a very quick report. It might be, here's everything. We have this done, we don't have this done. It might be a 5-second report. I don't know, I won't know until the Tonbridge Museum Foundation sits down with me and explains it.
I don't think council expects you to drop something like that. Roots on the Ridge brochure, get this done. But, when you got $500,000 on the table, it's nice to know that we can affect it in any way.
And then again, we go and support, if we were to go and support this and get the $200,000 and leverage the money to get the $500,000, the $500,000 that they're deciding to put in renovations into the building, who in the district decides that that's what the district wants? Or that that's what's best for our taxpayers? Who does that? Is that Mr. Wall's job, or is that definitely not a job of council, I wouldn't think, right? That's outside of what we do, right?
Yeah.
So, and before, I would assume it would have been Mr. Clickash would have some great deal in that, but at this point, is it just our CAO?
Mr. Wall.
Yeah, the final decision would have always rested with me regardless of who I had on my senior management team. They have, on this project, submitted plans years before. It might have been at the beginning of your term, it might have been at the end of the last council's term. This cultural spaces project has been ongoing for years.
Okay. Yes, yeah.
Just on that, Councillor Al, they can already get the 500,000, they just have to be able to get our funds and spend it. That's what it says right in the bottom. Transfer the funds to us so that we can actually spend the money and apply for reimbursement. So it says right at the top, we have been able to obtain 500,000, so they have to spend it before they're willing to top it up. So, I mean, our funds aren't used to renovate a building, so to me, there's no time on my side. So it takes staff a bit of time to report on. I think there was a fever service that was outlined for 3 years, and there was some wants by the district side, and I think that has to be followed through.
Well, if they don't say it's important enough to come to a meeting requested by our CEO, I would say, hey, there is no emergency. Okay, you're all good with that?
Yep.
No, you're good? Did we have a? No.
So there's still a motion on the table.
Hey, can we read the motion out just so we all know what we're voting on?
Sorry, I lost here.
So the motion was that staff produces a report on the progress of the Tonbridge Museum Foundation deliverables.
Okay. All in favor? Okay, takes us to bylaws, which is the third reading of the inter-community business license bylaw. Get the recommendation. Kirby.
Recommendation that council gives third reading to the intercommunity business license bylaw number 645, 2017.
Seconder, Councilor Scott. Discussion? All in favor? Okay, so 2017, this is new business, 8.1. 2017 Northeast BC Community Coal and Energy Forum. The recommendation there I'd like to get. Councilor McKay.
Read it, or just move it?
I just moved the
Okay,
recommendation.
so moved.
Seconder? Casey? I've got a question here, Mr. Wall. Is that a new name? Did they add energy into this? This used to be the Gold Forum.
If it was added in previously, I don't think it's an addition this year.
All right, any discussion on this? Councilor Scott?
I noticed that Chetwynd canceled last year. Is that put off for registration to see whether it warrants going ahead? That would be my only concern. And the other question is, has the premier ever attended one of the events?
Mr. Wall?
Similar to last year, there would be a decision point reached based on registration. I do not believe the Premier has ever attended one of these, but we usually get the Minister of Energy and Mines to join in her place.
This will be a new person. Maybe a new party. New person anyway. It's, Mr. Bennett is not running again. Councilor Klein?
And I think this is kind of a relatively small conference, you know, it compared to some of them, but, and I think it's something that we should be really looking to maybe start doing, getting involved with a little more of these type of conferences, and you know, and polishing the act of how to put these things on properly. And if it means, if we do, I mean, bed and breakfast and things like that can be utilized, there's housing, there's definitely availability of hotels, and who knows what it'll be like at this time, but it's a good opportunity for us to polish that skill in putting on small conferences.
Actually, it's been growing up until the last mine.
Yeah.
Closed down and then it kind of fell. Yeah, it actually was I know Chetwynd did a pretty good job of that last one. There's a lot of people there, just super spot. That's how.
And since then too, don't forget, we've also had a second wind farm come in place as well, right? So they're also involved in these energy farms as well, so. 2 wind farms and one operating coal mine and 2 others that could possibly go into work, and great spot for CN Rail to come show what they do as well.
Okay. So, any more discussion? All in favor? Okay, 8.2, airport land lease, overhead helicopters. Did I get the recommendation? Councilor Chasey,
Move the recommendation as presented, your worship.
seconder. Councilor Kai, discussion.
Thank you. This was up at our last meeting. To me, it's being brought back at the same amount. I think we tried to ask staff to come back with at least trying to recover the admin fees of doing it and stuff like that. I'm just wondering why it came back at the same amount.
I think we asked staff to bring us a comparison of other airports, which they have here.
The comparison was already in the report before it was, maybe not in that report, but I've seen it. But I believe we asked for some, in regards to covering our admin fees as well. I mean, that was definitely discussed and discussed by Councilor Howe.
Personally, I don't think that we could be higher than, I mean, we could come back and say we want to be the same as Chevron, but I don't see us come in higher, we're just gonna put ourselves out of the market with the use of our little airport. Councilor Howe.
Well, in my mind, you gotta take this airport lease, when it was originally developed for these guys, send it through your lawyers, develop it, spend a pile of time, and we all know what it costs to go through lawyers. You know, this has gotta be thousands of dollars for us to go out and collect $25 a year. And the fact that they say that they don't use sewer and water may be true on that location, but they certainly do use the water and sewer and the airport facilities that we provide for them. So in my mind, this is almost, this isn't hitting the point. Staff was not getting what we were looking for. I don't know what the direct motion was, but I agree with what Councilor Kakauka said. We were looking for them to come up with a reasonable amount to cover the costs for what we're trying to provide a service for these people. Why spend $5,000 or $6,000 of taxpayers' money to go and recoup $25 so that we can have them store a helicopter out there? It doesn't make any sense to me. We're not Chetwynd. Maybe Chetwynd has never looked at this, right? Just because Chetwynd's is 140 and ours is 130, it doesn't make any sense to me. To come back with a report that has a difference of $1.94 is again wasting staff's time. They missed the mark on this one in my mind, and I'll be definitely voting against it again.
Okay, I'll just restate that if we jack the price way up, that we parking that helicopter in Chetwynd, so are we trying to bring business to town or chase it away to Chetwynd? Councilor Kai.
That's what I recall too. I mean, we were looking to recoup a little bit of money. And one of the reasons too was also brought up the fact that just having something drawn up that covers us in the space of fuel spills and things like that, which, I mean, I don't know if it's in the contract we were looking at, but just to cover us on things like that was also part of the discussion.
Well, just on that, your worship, I totally agree with you as well in regards to wanting to have businesses here. But Jevin might have said theirs based off of us. You know, we don't know. I mean, it's this report, it's in before. And I'm just wondering, I mean, I'm sorry, I mean, how do you recoup staff costs? I mean, you talk about the fuel spillage. We talk about replacing the bathroom facility out at the airport. Let's talk about that. I believe it was on the budget for 2018.
$90,000.
Okay, I'm gonna call the question. All in favor of the recommendation? Opposed? Okay, can we come up with another recommendation so that staff has something to work with? Okay.
I think it's gonna follow along the same conversation we had at the last meeting, and that was to recover staff costs for any work that's involved in this, and as well as, an agreement that recognizes that if there is a fuel spill, that it is the responsibility of the renter, or the lease or whatever you wanna. Leasing, sorry. So, something to that effect.
Motion,
That's the motion.
second for that? Kirby? Any more discussion on it? Councilor Howell?
So how do we add something to that motion as it's being presented? Just a
Amendment.
friendly amendment?
Yeah.
So with that, like not, maybe don't necessarily stick right to just fuel spills, but any environmental damage that's incurred, it would be their responsibility to not only fix it, but also pay for phase 1 or phase 2 environmental assessment, whatever staff deems necessary to be done at that point, would be good to be added to it. And also to me, when you think about covering costs of, I understand it's to create a bill and send it out in the mail is not a lot of staff time to collect the money and then bring it to the bank or the e-transfer or whatever, but setting up that original agreement, I'm sure was a costly venture. So, you think of something, if it's, I don't know, if it's a $5,000 contract, I keep using the number 5,000 because that's experience I've had in my business to create a similar contract for a leasing agreement. So when you try to recoup those types of costs, maybe you could put in something like, this is the, per meter, this is what we're charging you, but there's a service fee per month of whatever, or at the end of the year, it's $2,500 to cover the service fee for you providing this land to you at some point. By comparison, if you take that meters, the charge on meters, and you look at an industrial lot, like out in the commercial park where I own a piece of property, you got a 50 by 100 meter lot, that's 5,000 meters squared. If you multiply it by that amount there, that gives you $6,500 a year. So based on that formula alone, you could lease a piece of land in Tumbler Ridge for $6,500 a year that you could run a heavy industrial business out of. By comparison, my taxes on that property are $5,600 a year with nothing on it, no improvements. So when you start comparing apples to oranges here, that's not enough money to allow somebody to lease. If we're allowing that to a helicopter company, there's already one out there. We're creating business for, or whatever, but why not allow that opportunity to everybody in the district to Tumbler Ridge? Hey, there's land released out there, and we're selling it for $1.30 a meter. Go out and get yourself 20 meters and store your campers out there. To me, it doesn't hit the mark. It's way too cheap for a helicopter company. $1,000 an hour for $25 a year.
Okay, I'm gonna throw something in here. You're saying we already got a helicopter company out there?
Yeah, I think
Ridge Roaders?
Yeah.
You notice they work on the same amount. If we increase the one for Yellowhead, we'll have to increase the one for Ridge Roaders. And they might be in trouble too. That's my concern.
Yeah.
And Ridge Roaders is a very good company for this town. They do a lot of stuff for us. They are a big part of our Grizz Fest. They're a big part of just about anything. They do the tours. I'd hate to see them move on. And you can't say, okay, for this company, we're gonna charge this much. But for these guys, because they're good people, we're gonna charge this much. You can't do that. It's gonna be either or. So I think it's a big decision we're making here when we say we want to up that lease rate for that vacant part of the property up there, because we could be losing all our helicopter companies.
Is the cost borne by taxpayers worth what we get in return? That's my question, I guess.
I think it is when you're talking Ridge Roaders. I don't think it is when you're talking Yellowhead helicopters. Maybe it is, because I don't know what they do here. This is a surprise to me.
I just think the legal side, the fees and the paperwork and costs to get that set up so that they're allowed to lease a small piece of property. And in my mind, the lease is not very good. It doesn't show what the environmental impact would be if they leased that piece of property. There was no pre-assessment done, there's no post-assessment done. That's the way it's done in the world nowadays. And so we passed that cost off on the taxpayers so that we can have the ability of a helicopter to be in town.
And I'm not saying that your argument isn't valid, and I don't know if we would have to change that immediately. If their lease is already in place, you probably can't change theirs until their lease comes due at that point. But there could be a processing fee in there, and I think that really, any business would understand that there has to be some amount of recouping the cost. We're not looking to make money off this, we're just looking to recoup the cost for the district of Tumbler Ridge. You know, it's a business that they run out here, they make money out of here. You know, it's not a total charitable event. Yeah, they may give us some charitable events, but so do other businesses in town. You know, there are lots of businesses that give tons of money up and free things up that aren't given the same luxuries that these guys are given. So, you know, Ridge Roaders, I think, also has a building on the airport. I don't know if that's taxed or how that works, but, you know, there's a different level of service to what Ridge Roaders has out there than what these guys do. So, not against either one of them. That's the thought process that I have, right?
I'm against it, because it does affect Ridge Roaders, and we lose them, that's gonna be a big hit for this town, so I'm against it.
We are going to be looking at upgrades and stuff like that, and it isn't fair to the taxpayer to cover all of those costs. A user fee or a service fee, like Councillor Howe was suggesting, like it could be a flat rate or something just to recoup some of them and bring them to a fair playing field, I think is needed. And especially the environmental litigation that might occur, if there's spills and stuff like that, that needs to be in the contract.
Yeah, Councilor McKay.
The last paragraph here, that Yellowhead Helicopters, that they're going to be following through with all the guidelines, policies, and regulations. Are we covered under that? Does that cover us off?
Mr. Wall?
Cover us in what way, Councillor McKay?
Spills, any type of
They would be required to follow any environmental regulations if any private company were to destroy the environment that goes against district policies or provincial environmental regulations. The district would always have a civil claim against them. Putting it in the contract likely wouldn't make that difference. If somebody damages our property, we have a civil claim against them.
Okay, because in putting this motion forward, it wasn't meant to start getting cumbersome, which we're heading down that road. It was specifically just to recover the fees, cost the district has borne under this, and if that means splitting it in some way with other users, I mean that's would be acceptable too.
Well, it says right in the report that they both took charge of the same amount.
Yeah.
If you change one, you got something else.
But yeah,
Councilor Scott, you had something else to say?
Well, I'm just thinking of that kilometer 5 on the Wolverine Road. When the seismic was here, all of the contaminated, the old drums and that have been left all over our geopark and stuff like that. Like there are a lot of areas that are going to be requiring cleanup. So having it, I think, right in the contract, and having the contract updated legally. I don't know how old this original one has been, but I just think that would be in order.
Anybody else? Councilor, please.
There's a motion on the floor?
There's a motion on the floor to get staff to come up with a cost recovery chart.
Okay, that's the motion.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Wall?
Yeah, just want to make clear what's covered in the motion and what council's just spoken about. So right now, council has a motion on the floor that would direct staff to recover any costs on the work done in producing the lease and to add protection on environmental damage into the contract. If council could specify, are you looking to recover the total costs of producing a lease within the 3-year lease period? Is this a 20-year recovery? That would really inform us on what we're doing here.
Councilor McKay, you made the motion.
yeah, and if it was done over a period of time, and then absolutely no issue with that at all.
Is that enough for you?
No, I'd appreciate more specific
A 10-year
direction
10-year period.
in an amendment to the motion would be appreciated, Your Worship.
He probably can't make an amendment to his own motion, or can?
You can amend.
Okay, you want to amend your own motion?
The recovery
10-year.
period be done over a 10-year period.
seconder for the amendment? Okay. Any more discussion on the amendment?
So just so I'm clear, what staff would be doing is then going to Yellowhead and explaining to them that we need to do some environmental assessment on the property and make sure that the costs borne will be reflected in the contract. And they will have to then pay for the costs of fixing this contract, or the costs of legal fees and staff time and blah, 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 will be recovered over a 10-year period.
So the direction, as I've understood it from council right now, would be to produce a report on what the costs to do all of that work would be. We would not be contacting Yellowhead. We would be putting in front of council a report on the costs of what council's laid out for us.
Okay. All in favor of the amendment? Okay, for the first motion, any more discussion on it? All in favor? Opposed? Okay. Former visitor center removal. There's a recommendation there.
I'll put the motion on the floor so we can have a discussion.
Okay, that you can put the recommendation on. Seconder for that? Scott? You wanna start that?
Yeah, if I may, I'm not sure about the construction of the old visitor center, but I know there's other proponents that are also interested in the visitor center. There was one on our desk that didn't make the agenda or whatever, but I know they were interested. I know they were in discussion with the town, or at least with Mr. Wall or somebody from the minute a few weeks ago. So I think this is something that should come back to a P&P for discussion. And I believe it was set out there to find out if there was anybody else interested in the visitor center, and obviously we've heard from the Geopark, and there's one on our desk. I think it should go to a P&P so we can discuss before all decisions made. So the other people have an opportunity as well.
I agree with you there. There's some stuff that's come up since we made that issue.
And is there a cost on the renovations?
I guess, if we're gonna have this discussion, we really wanna know what renovations and the cost. What renovations are necessary. Mr. Wall?
If I could make a suggestion to council on this, the renovations would depend on the lifespan that whatever group is looking to get out of it. I know, based on the gun club letter, they're not looking for any renovations, they're looking to be able to come and pick it up. I'm not sure how long the Geopark has in mind. Perhaps if council is looking to, perhaps the easiest thing to do instead of taking it to a P&P, because you won't have any more information than you do now, would be to direct staff to put out an expression of interest, like we did in the past. Find out who's interested in it. Council can take a look at which user group you want to go with, and then staff can investigate the costs associated with that choice. But council, you do have the option to move to a P&P and just discuss.
Councilor,
What is known about that building at this time? Like, I was always under the impression that thing was condemned. I thought that was part of the discussion of building the original. Is that not the case?
I don't think it was condemned. It looked terrible, and then they painted it up, and it looks not bad now, you know, but I don't know nothing about the foundation or nothing, none of that stuff, so that would all have to come from Public Works, I guess, or a building inspector. So, Mr. Wall?
Yeah, if council's looking at long-term, if anybody's looking at long-term, if I recall correctly, we believe that it's good for 5 to 7 years before it's gonna need money put into it. It might last longer, it might not.
Okay.
And is it a year-round facility? Can that be used year-round, or is it only a summertime facility?
It's, the insulation is low in it, and I don't think it's really built for winter. And, so it would have to be, if it's used for winter, I think it'd have to be something done to it. Mr. Wall, is that not correct?
Yeah, in the past, in the previous report, we indicated that if it's gonna be used through the winter, there's minor upgrades that would need to be done on that. Really, would be the cost borne by the user for having to heat it through the winter. Council's aware of heating costs in Temple Ridge. My previous small little trailer cost more to heat than my house because it was a tin. So, as long as the users would be willing to pay for that cost, it wouldn't cost the district to run it in the winter.
And one last one, with the Geopark proposal, I thought I had seen something in there where they were going to look for funding to repair the building themselves if they got it. You know, if that's the case, I mean, that, you know, that's good for all of us is the way I look at it, but, you know, rather than moving it at all at this point, I mean, if we gotta move it in 5 years, if it runs its lifespan at that point, maybe the Geopark puts $100,000 into it. As long as it's not taxpayer money going into it, I could support that Geopark proposal tonight. You know, but I just don't wanna see us sink any more money into it than then pay for the gas and the heat and the whatever else is gonna come out of it to support the Geopark at that time. If they think they can take it on themselves and make that thing work, you know, I could support that tonight.
Okay, well, let's get this done and then maybe I can take a motion to change this. So the recommendations on the floor is that council approves a budget of $13,800 as a special project for 2017 for the removal of the former visitor center with landscaping and appraisal. So, all in favor of that? Opposed? Okay, would somebody like to make another, motion? Councilor Guy.
Before we do, I would like to just bring up a point. Is this something that we should take a good look at? Because there's all different types of, I think, different scenarios that could take place here. Maybe the structure within the visitor center could be changed, I don't know. And it could maybe be, I think a little more thought. And maybe with the people involved, and just see if there's an opportunity for different things to take place.
You can make a motion to have staff to come back with a report on it, and on the different options that we have.
Did you expression of interest? Expression of interest. For people with
Yeah,
expression of interest.
yeah.
That's what I was gonna do, but you
Go, actually, no, go for it.
were. I just didn't. Okay, I'll make that motion then. We send it out for expression of interest for all groups.
Secondary, Councilor Guy. Any discussion on that? Councilor Kirby.
Thank you, Your Worship. We had an RFP go out on that building quite some time ago, and there wasn't really much, I don't think there was much that really came back. I know it was with tourism businesses or in that kind of a scope. I think right now the Geopark put together a really good plan of usage for that area. It kind of goes with our walking tour. It enhances our downtown core, and I think, you know, expression of interest. I think that's, you know, looking forward and to what the Geopark is bringing to the community. I think they've set out a pretty good plan. I like the plan that they've got forward now. I would be willing to back that proposal tonight also.
I think Councilor Casey indicated that too.
Yeah, I do.
So just a couple things, I know I've been in discussions, this did come up previous to me being on council, but there were some issues with that building. I'm gonna say it was condemned, but there were some issues in regards to what maybe was at the bottom, whether it be watch or whatever was going on there. There was supposed to be some investigation done on that. So I have no issues with the Geopark, I think they came in with a great proposal. Are they willing to pay the power, are they willing to pay the fuel? Are they looking for some kind of subsidy? I mean, those questions didn't get asked because I know in my mind, there was more discussion gonna happen in regards to other groups that have come forward as well. But there is something with that building at one point or another, previous to the building inspector, there was some issues with the base, possibly rotting. Again, if they were to move that building, they don't even know if it'll hold up. That's why my understanding was a new building was built. It wasn't just because this one here was ugly, but there was some concerns and it was gonna take some money to keep it up. More, you know, and building a bigger one is my understanding, when I sat in that gallery.
Mr. Rowell just stated that it's probably good for 7 years, so. Go ahead.
Yeah, one of the big problems with the old building is it was too small. There were people banging into each other, and that was the main reason that it had totally outgrown its usefulness. And right, if we were voting on this tonight, I'd be solidly behind the Geopark proposal, and I don't think it'll change on that. But I think there's an opportunity for maybe the Geopark to take maybe a larger role, and maybe there's a possibility to talk to them before we make any vote that kind of handcuffs us onto this one. And that's my reasoning. It's not that I don't agree with
I
them.
know what you're saying.
It's not that I don't agree with them. Like I say, if we were voting on this tonight, I'm solidly behind it. Fantastic presentation. It makes all the sense in the world. But I think there's maybe a greater role for the Geopark to play, specifically when we're looking at a decision to be made for future years with the Geopark. So, and I'd like to, I wouldn't mind having a conversation that encompassed all of that in ways that we can help.
Motion, go ahead, Councillor Tracy.
Thank you, Worship. I'm not sure where we're at. We've got the building. The Geopark have indicated an interest in the building, if I'm not mistaken. So they accept the building, but sell it on a where is as is basis. It's theirs. So whatever renovations that they want to make or whatever, or would like to add on to what they're doing now with the Geopark, et cetera, would that responsibility not fall within the Geopark themselves?
That could be part of the motion.
I mean, that just makes sense to me. It's not gonna cost us anything. They've expressed the interest in it. They're gonna have to fix it up. They've got their own plans, so on and so forth, maybe avenues of financing. I have no problems on voting on that tonight and doing it.
I think Councillor Strachan.
Yes, I support the presentation that was made too, but I'm thinking that perhaps there's a better placement of what their intentions, like, or a better, like in the community center, in some of, rooms 2 and 3 or something like that. We've got storage areas there. If we're setting up displays and this building is only good for seasonal use, things like what Sarah's putting forward are year-round displays. So, and then the other thing that was on our desk, it looks like there wouldn't be a cost to us if somebody's willing to remove that building. And I didn't indicate, or didn't have an indication of the Geopark's intention of buying it. Like what is the fair market value? Like, there's a lot of unanswered questions as well.
I don't think buying it was part of the
Right.
decision. Can I get the motion that's on the floor right now?
Thank you, Your Worship. Council has not voted on the original motion on the
Yeah,
floor.
can I get that
You-
motion?
Did council vote on the original motion? Okay. Well, then the motion right now was made by Councillor Kokoka to release an expression of interest to see what groups wanted to use the building.
Councillor Howe, you had something?
Yeah, it's so like to what Councillor Casely was saying, if that's the way they want it to go, if they want to buy the building, well, fantastic, then problem solved. But that, I didn't get that feeling from the Geopark that they want to buy it. To me, at this point, we need to either decide, do we want to go with the Geopark or not? And if we think the Geopark is the right way to go, instead of giving it to somebody like the Gun Club or somebody else along that way, at this point, we should say, should we enter into negotiations with them to see what they want to do? If they can provide to say, hey, we'll take the building off your hands and we'll do all the renovations and we'll pay for everything, then we say, great, be done with it, right? But the negotiation side of it, we need to know their side. We need to know their ideas. And if we say, hey, it's it's $100,000 to fix a building up, they might say, oh yeah, sorry, sell it to give to the Gun Club, right? So it's to get that conversation going. And how do you do that? Do you prepare a report that let staff talk to them, or do we just invite them in to have a meeting about it, or what? But in my mind, I think it's the expression of this council that we want to go with the Geopark idea. We just don't know what it's going to cost.
I agree with that. Councillor Tracy?
Yeah, I agree with it as well. And again, if the Geopark aren't interested, that's an easy thing. But thank you very much for the offer, but no. And but if they are, in terms of coming to council and saying this is what we're prepared to do, and we'd like to have it because we've got plans, blah, 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 I think it's worth happening, making it happen and listening to them. They'd be great. And we're not going to lose anything. I mean, if they say no, we can't do it, and we're not satisfied, the option is always there until something else is settled. And we'll kiss it goodbye, and that's fine. But I think they should.
Councillor Calumet?
It'd be nice if we had a conversation that everything was put on the table, what could be available. Maybe there's something that would be more advantageous to the geopark if, and, you know, and if they don't know what we're talking about, I mean, maybe this wouldn't be the decision that they would likely make. I mean, that's that's where,
Part of the.
can we be candid right here, right now? I mean, there's nothing, we're not having voted on it. I mean, can we bring it up, bring up ideas?
Well, I think that would come in discussion that we have with the geopark if we go that way.
Right.
But part of the presentation that was given to us was a picture of the building sitting right there.
Yeah.
That's, I think, location.
Yeah.
But, anyway, let's, do this first motion that's on the floor right now. Okay, all in favor of that motion?
Could you repeat the motion, Your Worship, please?
It's, could you do that again?
That staff release an expression of interest for use of the old visitor center building.
So that's sent out a RFU rather than just going with, geopark.
That's okay.
Okay, all in favor of that? Okay, against? Okay, so that's defeated. So could I get another motion? Is that,
Defeated?
yeah,
So it is not.
I've seen three hands up, and one. So. Okay, Councillor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Before I make a motion, I just, I think with the proposal the Geopark had is to come in and use that building as is. You know, they have I think Sarah explained the use for it. I think us going over and thinking, oh, there's other places. I think they've decided and kind of thought through what they could use this for now. Within the next year and looking onward, I'd like just to put the motion forward that the Geopark get control of the visitor center as is.
Seconder for that? Councillor Daisy? Any more discussion on that? Councillor Strong?
What is the value of the land and the building? Like, we're giving something to another group to just use. Like, that is prime location, like it might be worth something to somebody else to put something up.
We're not giving ownership. I don't think.
No.
We're giving the use of the building. We're keeping ownership of the property.
Is there going to be a rent?
That's right.
When you give somebody or lease somebody a building and we still own it, we're responsible to upkeep it and repair it. That's what we were trying to stay away from, is the repairs and the costs associated with the building that in some minds is condemned, so. In my mind, but until you have the report of what that thing is worth, I wouldn't do anything with it, neither should the Geopark. Who would sink a bunch of money into it if they don't know what it's worth? Why would you take that risk on?
Do you want to make an amendment to negotiate with the geopark? If you stated. Anybody? Councillor Kirby?
Your Worship, just a question. When we had that building out for an RFP recently, was there a rent attached or an agreement on usage of that building already set?
So the last thing we sent out was an expression of interest, and there was no stipulations other than we were looking for a tourism company who could come in and use this as a big business incubator space.
Okay. Maybe I would amend my recommendation is that the District of Tumbler Ridge work out a lease agreement with the Geopark on the use of the old visitor information center.
Okay. And the seconder was, who was the seconder?
I don't believe Councillor Kirby's original motion was seconded. Council could
Okay.
correct me, so this would allow Councillor Kirby to make that motion you just made, not as an amendment, but as a regular motion.
Seconder for that? Councillor Daisy?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll second it to put it on the floor. Then what
Okay,
comments?
so did you want to speak to that?
Yes, if I could. I was going to suggest prior to the motion being made is that to put the topic on the P&P, invite the Tumbler Ridge Museum or
We
Museum Foundation, but the Geopark to come as a delegation to make a presentation on what their plans would be for the use of the building, so on and so forth, what they're prepared to do, and so on. Buy it, or whatever, whereas as is, but whatever they do. And I think it would be worth listening to in terms of their plans. But give them at least that opportunity to do it. If we're not satisfied, we can say, sorry, it's not gonna happen. They may come up with some innovative ideas, and with the people that they've got there and the opportunities they've got for further grants, all the rest of it, they may be able to handle it quite nicely to fit into what their overall plans are. I think it's worth a discussion. That would be my recommendation.
That pretty well covers, let's cover with this motion, right?
No,
Okay, so that's, so is that an amendment?
it would be, it would be, I don't know if we're making an amendment, my suggestion might be is that we vote, assuming council is for it, is that we vote against the motion, decline the one that's on the floor, and then make a new motion relative to putting it on to a future, the next PMP, and at which time we'll have more time to talk about it, whatever's,
Okay. Councilor Curry.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm satisfied with the report that Sarah gave tonight on the uses that they've already thought through on that Vic Center. And I think basically what, you know, if council is in favor of the Geopark taking over that building, then it just comes down to, you know, what are the costs that, you know, are they gonna pay the rent? It's just going through that lease and on what terms that would be. Because I'm happy with the presentation that was made tonight.
Thank you, Roger. Yeah, I think the presentation was great. I mean, there's no question about it. I don't know why we can't just make a motion that gives admin a chance to sit down with the Geopark and hammer out whether the building would be able to be signed off to them with the district keeping the land, them taking over any renovations / power / phone, whatever. Maybe there's another report that Mr. Wall in discussions could come back and instead of, I mean, we've thrown on 3 or 4 different motions here. I mentioned about it going to a P&P, right? And we've already heard that Mr. Wall said there'd be no more information. So I just saying I don't know what their plans are. Are they planning on willing to pay the power and the gas and all that, right? That's all I'm wondering, right?
So the motion we got on the floor says that we're gonna work with the lease with the Geopark, which would be staff that does that. So what you just said is part of this motion, so if I'm not, is that right, Mr. Wall?
That's correct. So the direction that staff would understand from the motion if passed was that we would speak with the Geopark, negotiate find out what it is they're looking for, negotiate what that's gonna look like, and we bring it back to council and we would say, this is what the Geopark's looking for, here's the uses, this is what we think the district cost is gonna be, and council could make a decision at that point. So just to be clear, so right now, the direction, if this motion were to pass, what I would understand is that we would talk to the Geopark, get an understanding of what they're looking for, but we would only be speaking with the Geopark about this. Council would be excluding the other groups from this negotiation.
Okay. Any more discussion now? Councilor Cajun, did you have something more?
no, that's fine, Your Worship.
Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Okay. You've heard our discussion, you must know what we got.
Ready to talk stuff.
Okay, Umbridge Golf and Country Club, RFP. Did I get the recommendation? Mr. Hawk.
The council, as per section 3.2 of the request and lease proposal, as approved in the lease on January 9, 2017 meeting of council for the license to manage and operate and maintain the Tumbler Ridge Golf and Country Club, including pro shop, food and beverage operations in the RV park, hereby rejects all proposals received.
Okay, seconder for that? Councilman Pat, discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, I guess we can get, back in. go to 8.5. This is a Girl Pet Club thing too, but I didn't hear what they had, right? Nope, still on that one. Okay, there's a recommendation there, which is, Councilor Casey.
I make the recommendation, your worship, as presented.
Okay, seconder. Councilor Kirby, discussion.
Just for clarity on the as presented, that's the first portion. It's as presented, is that what we're talking about here?
I think it's the whole thing.
Yeah, it's only one recommendation, or several components, so.
Your worship. If I could add some clarity, Councillor Howe, it's the next report that's gonna have the motions broken.
Yeah.
into
That one's got two portions. Any more discussion on it?
So,
Go ahead.
just for clarity here, so what we're talking about here is splitting the golf course and the restaurant facilities. The district would then, from this point forward, start their work to run the golf course for this year, enter negotiations with QP, and all that stuff will be taken care of from this point here. And the RFQ for the restaurant will then be put out, and whatever happens with that, happens with that. But we will have the golf course side of it, things taken care of from this point forward.
Mr. Wall?
That's correct. So if council were to pass this motion, the district would take operation of the pro shop and all revenue associated with it. We would look at what we were able to do to bring a fully licensed and service restaurant into the upstairs. Failing that, this motion would allow staff to look in an alternate setup where we would be selling beers, snacks, and sandwiches out of the pro shop, and allow the different golf clubs to organize catering to their events for a fee.
That would be using the upstairs.
That's correct.
Councilor Howe.
And previously, when we did this, I don't know if you have anyone in staff that can give us the answer to this question, and I should have come and asked you this one, but it just came to me now. Did we ever have, was this ran through the union employment last time the district ran the golf course?
Which section, councilor?
When we, whatever it was, 4 or 5 years ago, when it was ran by the district of Tumbler Ridge, the actual golf course, the pro shop in that area, the person who ran the pro shop and the people that were employed in the golf pro shop that did the bookings and cleaned up the carts and picked up the golf balls and stuff, were those people union members?
I'm not 100% sure. I do know that in the collective agreement we have with the union, there's no provision for these type of workers. So I don't believe so, but I've been wondering the same question as to how it was run. I'm not sure.
Through to Councillor Howe, or through your worship to Councillor Howe. Previously, the golf course was run through society. After the society dissolved itself, then the district took ownership. The district has never directly operated it. It's been operated through a lease agreement or a relationship agreement, and some component. There's been different variations of different agreements. At no point in time has there actually been district staff actually employed and working on the premises of the golf course. So the recommendation that's put forward for administration is a new management relationship for that particular facility.
You were, just to be clear, what Mr. Clark is talking about is the pro shop side of it. We have had district employees, of course, taking care of the greens, but the pro shop side, the driving range side, that would be new.
Thank you.
Oh, Councilor Chai.
So this would be similar to the situation we had when Burke ran the pro shop, and we had, he had his own employees there. I think we're talking pretty well the exact same thing.
Yeah.
It was leased out to, just for the pro shop.
Mr. Wall?
No, what Councilor McKay, sorry, what we're talking about here is that district employees would be running the pro shop, and that the district would retain all green fees associated with running the pro shop. So the pro shop would be the responsibility of the district. The restaurant, were we able to find somebody, would be leased out and would be the responsibility of that leasing.
Thank you, I had that wrong.
So, there was a lady that was employed, her name was Kim Wiley, I think. I don't know, maybe Miss Torville remembers this, but I thought that she was employed by the district. Perhaps not, maybe she was employed by the operator at that time. Yeah, that, I mean, this is something that we never really talked about when we were talking about the Screaming Eagle proposal, about if we had to take it on, that we would be looking at having to hire on union employees and where that goes there. I mean, you know, when we hire these people on for the golf course, would it only be a short time position? Or is this something when you hire them on, they've got to be there for forever, or how does that work? And is there any, you know, are we starting to pay people union fees or union wages to pick up golf balls, or, you know, the same wages that the guys get paid around town to do the work that they do here in town? Is it a comparable wage, or does anybody have any influence on that?
We talked about this earlier this morning, well, and be a permanent, it's a steady job for the summer, but it would finish at the end of the golf season. But Mr. Wall, you got any more to add to that?
That's correct. It would be a seasonal position, so it would only be for that short time. We're looking to hire summer students. That's our hope. Mr. Clark, in anticipation that this possibly would happen, had foresight to make applications to the federal summer student program. So it's possible, nothing for certain, but it's possible that part of those wages could be offset. But I can say that part of the union agreement is that summer students are paid a comparable wage rate to regular employees, yes.
And then, just for clarity, going forward from this year, would we have any obligation to the union to therefore provide employment after this year?
Okay. All questions, all in favor? Opposed? Okay, that takes us down to 8.6. Ridge Golf and Country Club investigation of selling.
Sterile fees allowed to print this one.
Yeah, I think he said he was actually.
Your worship. Maybe I could help explain, because we've got the addendums and stuff on this one.
Explain, okay, yes, one second.
I'm gonna do it now before they come back in.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
Sorry, your worship, so, on this one, please make note, council, that there was an addendum added to this, so, do you have an addendum? 8.6, that's correct. So I would recommend, there's kind of two different issues with this. I would recommend that council separate these motions out, just so council's aware. At any time in a meeting, if there's a number of clauses in a motion, you're able to ask for them to be separated out. It's not something that needs to be done by motion, it's simply done by request. I would suggest that council take the first two paragraphs and deal with them as one motion, and the rest of the paragraphs and deal with them as a second. The first motion, the first two paragraphs have to do with setting the green fees and increasing the green fees at the golf course, and the following paragraphs have to do with the cost for investigation of sales. The sale of the golf course, to be more precise.
Okay, so I'm looking for the recommendation number one, which is the first two paragraphs.
So moved.
Right? Seconder for that? Councilor Kirby, discussion. Now, one thing go ahead.
Did you want to go first?
Okay, I'll just finish up what I started here. One thing I didn't see in here is cart storage, which I've heard in this, when we discussed this council, that it's not near enough compared to what storage in that kind of building is in other places. So I would just like to, can we just add that in there? Because this is just checking for fees, right? Mr. Wong?
Thank you, your worship, that was an oversight on our part, it's something that we're going to be taking care of. I would recommend that you don't make an addition to the table right now and that you wait for the report to come back where we've got the comparison for you. So if council just holds tight on that specific section, staff will get back to you.
Okay.
Which section are we talking about, Joe?
The golf cart storage.
Oh, okay.
So it's not included in this table, but we intend to bring it back to council to have it included.
Helen?
Yeah, I was just, again, like with Temple Ridge being relatively small, the comparisons to Fort Nelson, you know, where they have several service stations, a Tim Hortons, I don't want to see us make membership fees too high for the locals that are residing here. So, and then if we're looking at selling it, those fees would be set by the new proponents or the people purchasing. So is this something to determine the cost of the?
I think comparing with Fort Nelson is really good because they are hurting. If any community is hurting worse than us, it's Fort Nelson. Yeah, they got lots of gas stations and stuff up there, but they've got tons of closed businesses and nobody's working. So I think Fort Nelson would be a good place to compare with. Councillor Kirby.
I think when we're looking to recoup some of the costs of just maintenance and the work that the district puts in, you know, I'd like to see a little bit more of that recouped. myself.
So you're speaking in favor of this?
Yeah.
Anything else? All in favor of the motion? Opposed? Okay, the second half, you take that in addition off, and we can go from there. The second motion. Councillor Mackay?
So moved?
Okay, seconder? Councillor Kirby? Discussion? You know, we put this up for sale and, I think, Councillor Mackay and Councillor Crazy might remember this, but we never had hardly anybody look at it. And I don't think that would change right now, unless maybe if we had about 3 or 4 good years down there, that might change. As of right now, to spend that money on, putting it up for sale, I can't see why, if anybody, if our EDO department knows that if anybody comes in interested in buying a golf course, we have one. So, you know, I can't see spending any more money on this, because we've done it before and got nowhere with it. And I think we might have done it more than once before. I'm against this. Mr. Kirby?
Thank you, Mayor. First, I'd kind of like to find out what part of the golf, if down the road we wanted to sell it, what parts are not ours? What is on Crown land? You know, those are kind of issues that, you know, can we find that out without actually going the full distance of finding the worth of the course, but have it ready so that if someone was interested, we could say, this is the land that is for sale. So, you know, do that kind of due diligence on that side to get that looked at.
We can do whatever we want, but I still don't see the point of spending money on that. You know, if somebody comes and says they wanna buy it, they'll say, well, we'll have to do this. This is another cost of the sale. Mr. Wong?
Thank you, your worship. Contained within the report, we do highlight the areas. We do know which parts of the golf course aren't ours. So within the report, we do have that information.
I just, I heard somebody talking about this land was just leased to us anyway. No? We own that, we own the golf course. Okay. Councilor Kirby, you had something?
Yes, your worship. Is there a way that we could, ask, ask for that Crown Lounge that it's not ours, be gifted to us because of owning the rest of it?
I think that,
No,
I don't think there's,
no, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
That's all
no,
right.
no, you're next.
okay.
We're all
I was
good,
going
Mike.
to say, in this report, it does have the areas circled and highlighted that are Crown land. And in these recommendations, it has that council can approve as special projects, and it has a breakdown of getting all of that stuff presented to the province to request that it becomes Tunnel Ridges, or so that everything is a complete package. So, and I would be willing, or I would be voting in favor of doing that. You know, somebody might come to Tumble Ridge and ask if there's a golf course for sale, but these are things that it would make it shelf ready for that opportunity to pass it on to somebody. And then if we are serious about selling it in a downturn, put a sale price on it. There in the report too, it's saying that golf courses aren't really selling right now, so I don't know how you do that fair evaluation, you know, comparing it to other places. But that would be the first step to me is getting all of the Crown land and everything where some of our fairways are encroaching on, making that ours. And I think there was an issue with the road as well. So it's all in the recommendations.
So, are you saying vote on this and then make another motion?
I would just, we could go through and read out the individual recommendations and vote on those.
On each one? Well, we've got a motion on the floor, which we'll have to defeat first, I guess, and then we could do that.
What was the motion on the floor?
It was, the whole thing as presented.
Okay, I thought we were doing individual ones because we voted on the first
Yeah,
two.
we've already voted on motion. Motion number one was the first two paragraphs. Motion number two was the last three.
Okay.
Motion number two is on the last part of the page number 6. Last part of page number 5, so this is in the top of page number 6. Mr. Wall.
Just so council's aware, basically where you're at right now is Councillor Scott is asking, she wants to bring this project shelf ready to be sold. If that's what council wants to do, you're gonna need to pass everything. If council doesn't want to and you wanna go down the route Mayor McPherson has suggested, which is, well, let's just wait if somebody wants to buy it, then we'll spend the money to get it shelf ready. So I see, best as I can see, I see two paths right now that are being suggested. Spend the money to make it shelf ready, don't spend the money to make it shelf ready. I would say you have the motion on the floor to deal with that right now. If the motion passes, we'll get it shelf ready, we'll spend about $75,000 to do that. If the motion doesn't pass, we'll leave it and we'll see if anybody phones John.
Thank you, Your Worship, because we are talking that if we wanted to bring it up, ready for sale, we're talking between $75,000 to $100,000. Is that reasonable? Thank you.
Okay.
So, again, Your Worship, I'm just not clear on the motion that's on the floor.
The motion that's on the floor is, could I have you read that out?
So the motion is on the floor is to approve, I'm gonna summarize it here, a special project for 2017 with a budget of $5,000 to examine golf course roads, $7,000 to deal with encroachment issues, $10,000 to have it appraised, what's the last two? $50,000 for surveying, and there's one more, none of us brought our agenda.
see the 50,000.
Okay, and on here, I'm just seeing the 5,000, the 7,000, and the 10.
There's the addendum to the report, which
Addendum.
Oh, okay.
apparently everybody has forgotten.
That's, yeah, that's right.
Okay.
We have it here from Mr. Cook.
The addendum is, surveyor complete legal survey of the west and north boundary of the golf course in relation to Crown Land and determine if this encroachment is at an approved cost of 10,000. And then following that, when the district knows for certain the location and size of the encroachments, assume that there is an encroachment, then transitions to the process to apply to the purchased Crown Land or secure Crown Land tenure, along with the subdivisions of lands and this legal survey of the subdivided land with a budget of 50,000, including survey but not including land costs.
Okay, so we're looking around $77,000,
Without the purchase of the land from the province.
without the purchase of the land. Okay. Call the question, all in favor of motion? All opposed? Okay. We're good with that?
No.
Okay, so I guess we can get those back in there, Councilman Closes.
Addendums at the last minute, I just need that. I need the.
Okay. This is the schedule of meetings. There is one addition, I think, Mr. Wall, that's for the Kofi. Should be added on there.
We'll make sure that's added, your worship.
It's for April 67th, I think. Kofi. Fourth. Anything else that has to be added?
The tentative asset management meetings?
Oh, yeah, right.
We have a tentative date set up for March 13th. Is that too soon? Or we could move it to the 27th.
What time of the day did we decide on?
I think we were just gonna leave them at 5 o'clock.
So we were talking about having it every middle Monday, between the meetings?
Yeah. But March 13th is next week, so I don't know if the 27th would work better for everybody. It's kind of short notice now.
Does anybody have any preferences? I guess with these, if you can make them, you make them. If you can't, you can't. So I think we stick with the middle Monday,
Okay,
and then we, just keep doing that, and we'll all know that when the asset management meetings
okay.
are.
And then the next, we're just holding those quarterly, so the next one is June 12th. And it's not on this here, so.
Your worship, so what's happening in March?
March 13th, which is next Monday, will be an asset management meeting.
5 o'clock, same time as a regular council meeting. And then, from now on, they'll be added to our calendar, right? So,
Okay.
they'll be on the calendar from
And then did we want to discuss a time for town hall meetings? I find if we schedule them, then we seem to complete them.
So, I'd like to have a PMP on that.
Okay.
Good discussion on it. Everybody can think about it right now and, see where we end up on.
Okay.
Sound good? That's crazy.
Just again, for confirmation, on the 13th, we have an asset management meeting starting at 5.
Yeah.
Was there another one that you've set?
It was June 2nd or something.
June 12th,
June 12th,
yeah, but it'll be added.
they'll be on these calendars from now
Oh.
on.
All right.
So they're every quarter, we have a estimate.
Okay.
Okay. For the strategic plan, it's listing on the back of our agendas, it'll be on everyone, so we can refer to it maybe when we want to. Mr. Wall, you wanted to say anything about them? When you got this as 8.8 strategic plan, is that just for this agenda, like, or is that gonna be always on there and it's up to the top?
It'll always be on the agenda, council can just receive the information, just to keep everybody's mind drawn to what it is council wants staff to do over the year. It'll make deliberations easier as well, if council's looking for new projects to be added, we'll be able to look to your strategic plan and see the department that project's gonna be added to and remove projects as needed.
Anything else, Darryl?
Just on, I was just wondering in regards to the curling rig piping, was there not, I wasn't here, I just read it in the reports. That there was gonna be another report coming in regards to not looking at doing that, is that still true?
Council discussed not repairing the curling rink. Administration has sent out, administration informed and sent out an email to council that, as of now, council has not removed that project from us. We're not working on it right now because we're still in curling season, but it is something to keep in mind. If council does not want us to be doing that project, we need to receive that direction.
Thank you. Was there not a report coming forward, did I not read that? There was a report coming in regards to, making it a fun center or something like that, or am I wrong? Like I said, I apologize, and this is actually not even staff, this is council, because I wasn't here at the meeting, but I did read through some notes and some minutes that it was talking about, maybe it was Councilor Howe that, I'm just wondering, is it a report, or are we just talking about it?
I don't think there's anything talked about formally.
No, it was more. I don't know, should we be letting curling club come as a delegation and talk about what their plans are, what they see happening with curling in town, and before we go off and make any kind of decision, I think we should talk to them. A good idea?
Yep.
So I'll make that motion. Second. All in favor? Yeah, go ahead.
Just have one more, I guess it is directed to Mr. Wall, I talked to him in regards to, I'm just wondering when I do it, it's like in regards to that movie night. Is that, do we have to wait till their fee for service is up before we can look at that, is that what this is? I apologize.
Good.
Like for the youth center taking it over.
The council couldn't unilaterally force the youth center to take it over. You could ask them if they wanted to take it over. When their contract came up, you could build that into their contract, but you could ask them to make that change voluntarily.
What about a report from staff just to what it costs the district? Because, should we start that process? In regards to report, I know we talked in your office in regards to that. Just wondering if that's a better process, or do we just talk to them and see if they're interested in taking that over?
Whatever council would prefer, however would ease your decision-making process, we'd be happy to help.
other thing, maybe it should be discussed at P and B and have the cost of that.
No, I make a motion that we bring it to a P and P with some discussion of if we can get some brief costs at the same time.
Second for that. Okay. Any more discussion on it? On favor? Councilor Hall?
So this strategic plan, we're gonna see this every meeting now, and
Yep.
like, is this stuff ever gonna be checked off when it's dealt with, or just this is what the plan was for the year, is that the intention? Like, for instance, like CN Rail, like, is that dealt with, or no,
Well, it's in,
process?
the rail's gonna be fixed. But we're not really happy the way it's getting fixed, so it's, we're still in process with, trying to cut some costs.
Okay, and then maybe I just had a question on the operation side of it. I see pavement crack sealing on the lower bench in the industrial. If we're planning on paving the lower bench, I assume we're not gonna do crack sealing down there. Are we gonna move that to somewhere else in town? Is there, the middle section needs crack sealing, or are we just gonna eliminate that from the budget?
Mr. Wall, I'm just gonna ask, because I've seen this in another agenda, is that percentages of complete be put on at the end of it, each item? Is that a possibility? Mr. Wall?
Yeah, it's something that we can do. My plan was to do the quarterly strategic plan updates, similar that was done last year. Councils would like to have percentages on where things are complete. One of the benefits of having this come up on every agenda is that we can start marking things as complete. So maybe I'll take a look into giving you a bit more of a dashboard of what's happening in all these projects. There's a second part I was gonna answer, but I apologize, it's escaped my mind.
Just curious about the pavement, the crack sealing.
Yeah, I think, it relates to a lot of these things. This is so much done with the last 2 years, we have so much to do. Yes?
Thank you, Councillor Howe. The plan was to do crack sealing on the lower bench this year, and then anticipation of actually doing the paving, we're gonna move that crack sealing from the lower bench out to the airport and industrial park.
Okay. So that takes us to policy priorities, with none. This isn't a normal meeting, we do that, is it?
That's good.
Okay, any notice of motion? None? Council's business. Council McKay.
Attended the Medal of Good Citizenship presentation on the weekend, Saturday. Just to see Mr. White being awarded, definitely something that it's in recognition of the amount of work he's done around town. Volunteering for just whatever it looks like, and probably a few things that were mentioned. That was nice to see, and listen to speeches from Mr. Bernier, Mr. Helm, Kincaid, and yourself, Mary. I think it was well deserved, and it was well put on, and it was at the same time there was also a little bit of a do at the fire hall, in which they we go on and take a look at the ladder truck and the different inside the hall, and had the opportunity to look where the building, the leaks that were there before, and you can definitely see the leak marks that we had been talking about in previous meetings. Same day, had a chance to go over to well, for the weekend, the hockey tournament that was in town. So I kind of hung around there for a little bit, and it was a great weekend. Lots of people in town. Congratulations, Councillor Howell. It was a fantastic performance by the boys there, the team. There was also a karate tournament in town, so that was the place was pretty busy. Had attended a meeting there with our coordinator, Mr. McKellar, for the upcoming BC CFA convention. And the coordinator we have is just fantastic what she's done. I mean, we've been looking at breakfasts and meals and suppers and special guests and everything that we want to plan. She's got about 5 different venues or 5 different proposals for each of those. So there's really coming along, and really looking forward to that coming up. And I think that's about it.
participated in an ORV conference call with your worship and Mr. Rowe, as well as Vera Monroe and Marie with UBCM, and discussed some clarification on the new regulations and may possibly revisiting our trail system, and then Vera has said she will extend a call to the RCMP, the local detachment, and update them on the permitting and the legislation. And it's something that I would like to see probably on a PPC in the near future to discuss with all of council. And I don't remember if we were going to have a report on that.
There was no report coming, no.
Oh, and Building Healthy Communities Committee, I've just been notified that the Good Food Box Coordinator has resigned, so there's going to be a meeting next week. We have quarterly meetings there too, so we'll be looking for someone else to do that. And that's when we're getting into all these coordinators for GrizzFest, for the Geopark. Those positions are only as good as the coordinator is, and when they leave, all of the training, all of the knowledge goes with them. So those are things that are at risk. And that's it.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, I just have a couple things. One was, did attend the Good Citizen Award as well, and hats off to Mr. White. Well-deserved award, and hats off to him for receiving it. I just want to comment to the fire department in regards to a new fire truck. Captain Curry, hats off to you to make your speech and push the truck in with a little bit of gas power, but it's good to see. Hats off to you to receive the new truck, to you guys' fire crew over there. So she's got many years in her, and hope you never have to use it to save anybody. So hats off to you. I do want to make a motion at this time. I want to make a motion that we authorize Mayor McPherson and admin to get in discussions with the Geopark in regards to taking over the Vic Center in 2018. Of the running of the Vic Center.
Seconder for that. Councilor Kirby, discussion?
So what does that entail? That means that we would not want to extend the lease to, oh my God, it's slipping my mind. Chamber of Commerce, and we would then ask them, the Geopark, to run it and provide the similar amount of funding. Is that what we're thinking here?
I think it's just getting into some inspection of some concerns, see if they're willing to run it, maybe they're not.
Okay.
Just to see and check it out, and then it come back to council. But there's obviously gonna be funding there to run the Vic Center, but I mean, I think it's something to look at.
Seeing like the Geopark is likely a better fit for the Vic Center as compared to Chamber.
That's my only look at it. I did talk to Mr. Wall and to Don, and I tried to add it to the agenda, couldn't get on there, but I think it's time to have that discussion. So.
And I think we've got to look at all options. It'd be a good discussion down the road.
So what is the motion, I'm sorry?
For myself and Mr. Wall to talk to the Geopark and see if they would even be interested in running the Vic Center. They might consider themselves too busy for that. Councilor Kirby.
Thank you, Your Worship. And that would also probably, I mean, right now the Chamber of Commerce is running it, so I guess that would mean that council wants to take that would just change hands from the way it's operating right now? Take it from the chamber and give it to the Geopark? That's the way the discussion would go?
I think we're on another year with the chamber. And that we just want to find out what options we got and we can sit down and talk about it. There's no point talking about it as a Geopark doesn't want to. So we got to find out that to start with and then look at any other options we got. Mr. Wall.
That's correct about, there's a year left this year on the chamber's fee-for-service. I wouldn't recommend council start looking at canceling any contracts on that. But the fee-for-service is up at the end of the year, and council at that point will have precinct to award it to whoever you think is best suited.
Peter? Oh, sorry. Okay, all in favor? Oh. Okay. Councillor Hall,
I got it.
Councillor Kirby?
I guess nothing new besides, that was a great ceremony where, Larry White was awarded the Medal of Good Citizenship, helped push the fire truck in. Also attended the Tourism Advisory Committee meeting. The new visitor guide is just about complete and ready to go out. A lot of great input from all the groups. I think we've got a great product coming forward, and also just the work on the signage. I think hats off goes to the group and to our ECDev department. When the new signs come up in town, it's really gonna look great, the wayfinding, and just have a little bit of consistency to where you're going in town, and it should be easy to find for tourists coming in, where to go and how to get there.
Thank you. Casey?
Thank you, Worship. I've attended a couple of regional district meetings and so forth here since our last council meeting. The Tumber Ridge Peace River Regional District requisition for 2017 we've received, and that amounts to $365,669, which is $48,123 less than 2016, or has dropped down by 11.6%. The reason I gathered for that, which was good news, is assessments and so forth down by 5%. Talked about building inspection came up, agreements with municipalities to share additional costs for building inspection function to add a level 3 that they will be able to make use of. If it is a 5-year agreement calculated between the purchasing members, which is all of the municipalities except Fort St. John, that will be reviewed and adjusted annually based on if there are any additional costs due to a level 3 inspector, also reduced if there is a surplus. This is not the final draft. There may be more information coming on that, which you will probably hear about. STARS was talked, shock trauma air rescue service agreement has been renewed for another 3 years. And the strategic planning that's going to be taking place, which is a normal exercise for the Peace River Regional District, the dates have not yet been determined. It can't be done prior to March 31st. We'll try to do it by the end of the month, and as I understand it, not only will the directors be attending, but also the alternates have been invited this year as well in terms of participating.
Mike?
Yes.
There are dates, and I sent you an email.
Oh, fair enough. Thank you. One of the points that came up, Worship, you may be able to comment on it. There was a number of delegations that came in to the regional district, and my impression was that delegations at the regional district are timed. They need a unanimous decision by the board to extend their time, and no questions to the delegations by board members are allowed. And that took me by surprise because, and I don't know if that's been your experience by being there as well, that there was a delegation that came in. There was going to be a question raised by one of the directors, not myself, to ask a question to the delegation, and the chair put a stop to that. No, and so forth. And that's the first time that I had heard about that.
Never seen it.
Never seen that. So I've found that to be kind of a strange way to handle it.
Check on that.
The other building inspection was also talked. I've got that already. The strategic plan. The strategic plan recommendation that the board direct administration to schedule a COW meeting on April 13th to discuss transportation issues with the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure and to hear about scheduled work in the regional district for 2017. That the directors provide any questions they would like to have addressed at this meeting on April 13th and have them to administration by April the 6th. Another point, that the board direct administration to schedule future meetings at least twice per year to discuss transportation issues in lieu of the Northeast Regional Transportation Advisory Committee. Recommendation came through from the Solid Waste Committee that staff be authorized to prepare a report for the April Solid Waste Committee meeting, providing background summary and review of current waste and recycling arrangements at the Tumbler Ridge Transfer Station. Said report to identify operational efficiencies for the development of consistent region-wide delivery of service. And finally, the recommendation that the regional board provide a grant to the Wolverine Nordic and Mountain Society from the 2017 recreational trail grants in aid to a maximum of $8,034, which was passed by the board. And that's my report.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was, last week I was down at the Mayor's Caucus meeting. Mayor's Caucus, I brought up the fact that most of the communities down south there have completely different issues. I mean, mostly what they're worried about is their firefighting, and they don't have any housing. And I said, well, our Tumbler Ridge has got volunteer fire department, and we have lots of housing. You know, if you need some, send people up. But one thing they did do, they split the things so that it was more small communities and we were more in tune with each other and some of the issues. So I will bring a better report on that. One thing I did do down there, and actually Jordan, Mr. Wall was with me, and if you want to add in on anything on here. We met with Minister Stone, the Minister of Transportation, Minister Bennett, the Minister of Mines, and Mr. Bernier. And we talked, and we had with us Blair Lackstrom, who's working with Kinnimakol now, and Mark Bartowski, the president of Kinnimakol. We talked about the rail thing, and Mark started it off with, you know, that they have come to an agreement to fix the rail line, and it is going to be fixed, but he also said that they're not very happy with the way it went. And I guess I started it off, because I said how much we really liked what Kinnimakol has done for the town, and trying to create, with them, create a low-cost producer, and coal mines got to start building rail lines. It kind of adds to their overhead, and it was actually the four of us got together, and I think that what came out of it, we've got a lot of the ministers realize that there's things going on there that they never thought could happen with the agreement that they had with CN, and I got from the meeting that there was real interest in giving us a hand. And I couldn't make anything there. They couldn't say anything there, but they all had some concerns about it, and we were going to work on it. And the least I think will come out of this is we'll be able to go down to the federal government and find out who to talk to there with some backing from the provincial government. But they, we had all the players there. We had BC Rail there, and all the ministers with all their staff. And I really got a good feeling that something was going to happen. So we'll see down the road here where it takes us. The other thing I was part of down there was Mr. Bennett announcing a PST coming off power for the mines. It's mines for all over the province, and logging and that too. But it's quite a savings for these mines to not pay PST on the power they use. So just another step in making our mines maybe a little more solid and low cost. So it was a welcome thing. They got this stand up under a whole bunch of cameras and try to sound intelligent. They said it did pretty good. But anyway, it was quite an experience, first time I've ever done that. So, it went pretty good, and I'll, as this, if anything happens on this, meeting with CN, council right up to date on what's going on there. Mark was really impressed that, it was all on our invite that he ended up there and stuff, and he was pretty happy about it. He sent an email around actually, thank you very much for the opportunity. And he hadn't even met the minister before, I think it was the first week. So it went over really good. It was a real worthwhile trip. Well, you got anything to add to that?
Covered it off really well. I would just, basically what the conversation centered around is that CN has obligations they need to meet on their rail lines. And the provincial government is gonna be taking a look into legislation to see if what they did was legal. And they were concerned that in the future, CN could just run any line into the ground and then go back to industry and say, well, either pay for it or you can't move your product. So they were very concerned about the tactic, and they're going to be looking into it to see one, if it was legal, and two, to ensure that it doesn't happen in the future.
Yeah, so it was actually, it fit into a meeting, a time when I was gonna be down there, and it also didn't even cost anything to get to those meetings. So. And I think having Blair, is going to be helpful. He's a pretty knowledgeable guy. We walk into the legislature and everybody knows him. He's really accepted well down there, so I think having him on our side is going to be good. So that's it for me. And I also went to a lot of these meetings that we just talked about. So that takes us to question and answer period. You're the only one there.
I got nothing at the moment.
Okay, thank you. And I think we're gonna schedule meetings with you, Trent, it's kind of regular meetings, so we're not doing what happened, and I apologize for that last meeting there. I was supposed to come back out and see you.
Yeah, but I had to go shoot for the community center, so I was running out of time.
I figured it much. Okay, we're gonna set up something that'll work a little bit. So I guess that takes us to a closed, or somebody can take us to a closed. Councilor Kirby?
Recommendations moved to close as presented.
Okay, seconder? Councilor Scott, all in favor?